It's amazing though. Matt, I was saying like you've had so many shows that have been kicked off of YouTube, and seriously, I think I've had only one or maybe two, but one for sure that I can remember, and it was the January 6th show.
Well, you just need to step up your game. That's what it is.
I know. I don't go hard enough.
Yes.
It was a show called the Fake Insurrection, and they let it go out there for like a day, and then they kicked it off.
Well, now the Democrats are going to get beat so bad, it's their turn to say that the elections were stolen. So now we can start saying that stuff again.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. Yeah. That's one. I think we're live. I don't know. I mean, I see.
That's what that button says on the top.
I think the button says live, and you're drinking a scotch, so I guess we're live.
I think that's how it works. It's been a while for me.
All right, we are live. It says so in the chat. Welcome to Cross Politic, the Reformgelical edition.
Whoop whoop,
Matt. The people have been asking, every now and then, and when I say that every now and then, I'm trying to downplay it to not make you feel bad, but almost every single day I get a text or a message or something that says, when is Reformgelical coming back? You're busy though, man. I was listening to you and the stuff you're doing, it's crazy.
Yeah, I am busy, but I'm not going to lie. I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
But we're just going to have to find a platform that will allow us on because I kid you not. What was it? Yesterday, I got another video removed from Reformgelical, and we haven't posted in, a year or something?
Over a year, at least, and we're still getting videos from Reformgelical kicked off the channel, so good stuff.
Yeah, I consider that, a high compliment.
So this is the election coverage, and we're starting it out. And before we start, there's an election. Matt, I understand there's an election.
And
here's the thing. Here's the thing, Matt. I before the show, I was talking to you about this. The New York Times has recommended 5 ways to soothe any stress you might have as the election as the election continues.
All right.
Well,
before, let me just say, I'm expecting these 5 things to be very sophisticated, intellectual, because the New York elite are very high-minded and above us.
That's right. They are. They're very intelligent. But before I get into the coping mechanism, because we really do need to warn. I know a lot of the viewers in this channel, they're stressed out. They don't know what to do. So I want to help you out. But before we do, let me just remind you to share the show. Absolutely. Make sure that you comment. Make sure that you share. This is going to be a good time. I think this is going to go for 4 hours or something like that, because obviously the polls are still closing on the West Coast and all of that. But we're not going to be here for 4 hours. We're going to be here for the first 2. And then you'll get the normal Cross Politic lineup. But we're going to have guests from a lot of the key states. We're going to have someone from Georgia. We're going to have someone from Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan. They're going to give us the news from the ground, what's going on, and we'll introduce everyone as they come out. And actually, our first guest is going to be coming in just a moment. But Matt, I want to tell you these 5 things, right, that you need to do if you're stressed out, because you look a little stressed out, to be honest.
I am stressed out. I'm not going to lie. So I'm ready to go. What are these 5 things?
Okay, so the first thing is called 5-finger breathing, and what you have to do is you have to right. Okay. You got 5 fingers, right?
I got those. Go. Okay.
And you trace the outside of your hand with your pointer finger, just like this. You see that? But you do it slowly, and every time you go up, you breathe in, and every time you go down, you breathe out. And it's just a very slow. It's a breathing exercise, and it's supposed to calm you down when you start to see, your favorite politician losing. It's very difficult. And so you need to do the 5. This is official stuff. This is New York Times. This is legitimate news.
Do people still pay for subscriptions to this paper?
I have to assume. It's funny. As time goes on, like I'll click. Someone will say, "Oh, look at this article." And I'll click it, and like so often now, it's behind a paywall, and I can't see it. I'm like, I'm not paying for that. Are you crazy? You think I'm a subscriber to that?
How else are you going to figure out how to relax yourself tracing your fingers?
Well, here's the best. Here's in my opinion, this is the best one. There's 4 more.
Okay, let's hear them.
If the finger tracing doesn't work out, Matt, here's what you need. You need a bucket of ice water, and it says here that you should plunge your face into the bowl of ice water for at least 15 seconds, but as much as 30. What do you think of that?
I think that's what you do when you drink too much and pass out and need to be woken up.
in the cartoons, right? When someone would be drunk, they throw ice water on them.
Grab you by the shirt or whatever.
This is a real post, though. They really think you should do this.
I absolutely believe it. They're clowns over there.
They also recommend going for a walk or something like that. That's normal.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Here's another one. Breathe like a baby. That's not my interpretation. That's word for word what they say. Breathe like a baby. So you know how like a baby, they breathe with their stomach, right? Their belly goes in and out and stuff like that. And apparently that's, if you breathe like a baby, you'll get more oxygen to the brain and it'll soothe. That's why babies do it, because they're always freaking out about everything. And it soothes them.
I don't think that's a good tip for the
Matt?
New York Times, because we have kids, and I still wasn't quite sure what it meant to breathe like a baby. And I know for sure the New York liberals don't even have kids, so they must have been utterly confused and even more stressed out when reading that point.
Oh, man. And then, of course, the fifth one is limit your scrolling, but definitely don't do that. Instead, you should share this with everyone that you scroll with right now, because this is going to be a no-stress live stream. That's what I think.
A 5-finger tracer, low-stress stream. Just don't tag me so we don't get banned off YouTube, please.
So we're gonna bring out our first guest from Georgia in just a moment. But Matt, first of all, we're early in the night. What do you think about what's going on?
I am actually pretty shocked with how big of a turnout there was. I voted right before I came on air, and I was in line for 3 hours in Florida. I was in 2 hours after people were calling races. Like DeSantis won. I had 2 hours left to wait to vote. I have seen a lot of shenanigans in Arizona, New Jersey, Texas. Machines have stopped working. In Maricopa County, 20%, they said, of the machines stopped working, which I'm already super skeptical.
That's just an oopsie.
Yeah, it was a mistake. It's not
one
like
out
they
of
test
every
these
5
things or certify them.
1 out of every 5 machines. That's just an oopsie.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. The government is the only people or the only entity that can introduce technology and make things 100 times worse. Only the government.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the turnout has been, more than I expected. Here in New Hampshire, though, that doesn't translate to 3-hour waits. It's like, oh, that's a big line, and then you're through it in like 10 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? That's a lot, though, in New Hampshire.
AD, I do have a question about this, though. I was a little perplexed because from last time we spoke, you never voted or stopped voting. Did you vote again?
I voted, yeah. So
you did.
Okay, so
just because you knew you were going to be on the show, or
no? I've changed a lot of my opinions on this, right? So over time, we can't really get into that right now, but I'll tell you what actually inspired me to vote this time around. It's really funny.
Donald Trump.
So I watch a lot. No, well, maybe indirectly,
okay.
but I watch a lot of YouTube videos as I'm working, and when I say watch them, I'm really just listening to them. And there's this one clip of an anti-Don Bolduc commercial that I just kept hearing over and over again. And they play this on every video. I mean, Maggie Hassan, the Democratic senator, has dumped 20 times as much money at least into this campaign. So every video had this commercial, and it was a scary, scary commercial about how, when Roe versus Wade was overturned and our rights were going to get taken away, here's what Don Bolduc had to say. And all he says is, get over it.
You were sold.
And as soon as I heard that, I was like, who's this Don Bolduc guy? That's
hilarious.
It. So that actually got me interested. And I was like, and also my opinions on voting have been changing over the last couple of years since we last spoke. We haven't really talked that much in that time.
It's very
sad. Yeah, I've gone from being like an idealist to really more of a realist when it comes to voting. So yeah, so that combined with get over it.
Out of all the elaborate arguments that I've tried to make over the years to get you to vote, I could have just said get over it.
All you had to do is see, I could not have predicted that. See, I honestly didn't.
Fingers, I'm stressed.
I could see that. Well, so, but the thing is, I didn't anticipate Roe versus Wade being overturned, right? So, and I don't think a lot of people did, but some people had a lot more positivity, and I think you were probably one of those people. But I didn't think that it would ever happen. In fact, I may have said that on Reformed Jellicle before. And then it did, and that kind of changed my perspective on a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't worry, that video probably got removed anyway, so you can just say you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I could just pretend I never said it.
Right.
That's how the memory hole works, I think.
Right.
But in any case, so yeah, no, that's really what got me to do it. And so I did vote today. I didn't vote for everything because the Republicans in New Hampshire are still clueless. Like that, do you remember, Matt, that Satanist transsexual that ran for Republican police chief or whatever it was? Well, now he's the nominee for a House seat in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
So they still haven't gotten their act together. They still can't figure out how to get this guy in a dress who worships Satan to stop running under the Republican ticket.
Yeah, well, those are tricky ones because you don't want to upset the base, I hear. You know.
I've seen that guy in Walmart quite a few times because, you know, I'll run into Walmart to get some like fishing gear or something. And every now and then I'll see him there. And it's like even if you were looking at a distance, it's like, oh, that's a dude. That's clearly a dude in a dress.
Yeah. I get that. I'm so glad I don't live in California anymore to see that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
How's Florida, man?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful, except for the hurricanes. It's been rough. It's been a rough one.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff. Because, you know, they happen, but they don't always happen like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. I don't know if we're supposed to, like, have a guest come on right now, but I see...
We are.
Right now.
We are, but he's supposed to be there for 10:15, so we still have a few minutes, you know?
Sorry.
We still have a few minutes.
I need to do.
Well, let's introduce him because
bucket?
I had a chance to talk to Ricardo at the Fight Laugh Feast conference, and he's a good guy. So let me pull up my notes here. Ricardo Davis, here he is. Welcome to the show.
Hey, brothers. Hey.
Oh.
So let me introduce you before we get into this.
I want to be the media guy. I want to be the media guy who made bank on the Get Over It commercial. I mean, that was the easiest. That was the easiest money somebody made.
I know. It's like those tunes with 3 notes in them that become so super catchy and make millions off of it. It's like, get over it. Dong, dong, dong.
These commercials, it was so funny because obviously they were putting it out there to be against Bolduc, but obviously for people like me, it spoke to me. It really did.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Ricardo Davis, welcome to the show. Ricardo is a healthcare IT consultant. He's also the president of Georgia Right to Life, which is an organization that is working to advance personhood so that innocent lives are protected from lethal threats. Ricardo,
yes.
God bless you,
Yes.
brother. Welcome to the show. What's going on in Georgia?
Besides election fraud.
Well, you know what? We are making citizen oversight great again.
Oh, God
Here
bless
in
you.
Georgia.
Yes, it needs to happen.
Yeah, so we are in the process of reforming Georgia's elections here.
This is huge news.
Taking dominion. I love it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? And I actually am part of this organization called Voters Organized for Trusted Election Results in Georgia. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here.
Is he allowed to share his
screen
screen
that
here?
power? They didn't give me that power. How come he got it?
Yeah, we don't want to give you that power. You are untrusted.
Apparently.
Tell
He
that
started
right
an
now.
organization with a trust in it.
Here we go. It says I'm sharing right now.
It's coming up. There it is. There it is.
So now, here's the thing. Now, we have been, with the organization Voter GA, we have been fighting to preserve evidence of the election, to actually have independent audits of the election, to
Where's that organ?
inspect.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like preaching.
Man, where's Chocolate Knox when I need him, right?
I know.
Come
Come
on.
on.
Knoxie's be here.
Mr. Producer, get Chocolate Knox up here with the organ. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. But so here's the thing. Now, again, you didn't see this on CNN, even though this is right in their backyard. But one of the things that has been consistently used as an excuse is that Georgia voters who are negatively impacted by fortifying the election. If they see something, they actually have standing. So there are a number of court cases that have been winding its way through. Again, some of these cases were started right after the 2020 election, and they're still making their way through court. And part of the defense that the state has been able to use is that, well, voters don't have standing to sue. Well, we have a separate case that isn't related directly to election integrity. Here in the state of Georgia, our state Supreme Court has essentially said that, oh, wait a minute, we have a long tradition of the fact that voters in these kind of instances do have standing. Now,
that's kind of a crazy position just to take, that a voter does not have standing.
Yeah, a voter does not have standing to sue what is alleged now with regards to the irreparable harm of, let's say, oh, we have 6 affidavits of election workers that said that they handled counterfeit ballots back in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Never happened. I saw on CNN that never happened.
Yeah, safest and secure selection of all time.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and there were really plumbing problems.
Yeah, and the bathroom in the different level of the counting area.
Yeah,
that's like
and they had to clear the area where they were counting the votes.
Yeah, except for 3 people with the suitcases underneath the table. Yeah, I saw that video too.
Hey, there you go.
It's amazing. It's like mafia level lies.
Well, yeah.
Well, but here's the thing, and you know, I've been listening to the coverage on what's happening, and excuse me, people are saying, well, Kemp isn't performing as strongly as some people thought he would. Well, it just might have a little reason to do with the fact that he's been leading from behind on the issue of election integrity.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be charitable.
Yes,
you're a very charitable guy. I know you to be.
If you keep pushing me, I'm going to join the no quarter November crowd.
Where's that push button on here?
That's right. Just push him. Keep doing it.
Just go off the cliff.
This is interesting stuff. What's going to happen with this with the Senate election? It's tied right now.
Well, okay. So
is it going to be an accident in the boiler room? It'll be an accident in the plumbing.
Well, here's the thing. Usually the top 2 on the ticket are usually your strength on the ticket, right? So we have the U.S. Senate race and we have the gubernatorial race here in Georgia. Just given the dynamics of Herschel Walker's race, from jump, it was going to be an uphill climb. And part of that has to do with how, in particular, the party is marketing him. So, for example, my youngest daughter, she's 18 years old. She actually voted in the Republican primary. Okay. For 2 months, she's been getting mail from either Warnock's campaign directly or from Democrat-aligned organizations. And Warnock's message basically is, I'm one of you. I'm one of us. That right. If I could just boil his messaging down, that's what it is. And then, a week and a half ago, I started seeing, GOP stuff hitting my daughter. Well, I'm like, well, brother, you're like if my daughter hadn't been my child,
Right.
it,
Yeah.
she would be. It's like, well, okay,
Right.
but Diane, from the minister down at Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s church.
Right.
So there is, like I said, the Senate race is going to be a big, big deal.
Yeah.
So if I was going to call it, he's going to a runoff with Warnock.
Yeah.
In other words,
That's
the Libertarian candidate on the ballot, whose name escapes me right now, is going to take enough of the vote that no candidate gets 50% plus one, which in Georgia means it goes to a runoff election.
Yeah.
Do you see Kemp taking the governor's race?
Yeah, he'll take it.
Okay.
Well, excuse me. Unless
something's gonna happen.
Unless something happens. Now, again,
you're speaking Matt Williams' language right now. That's for sure.
Yes,
say it.
You know, we're part of the Georgia. I'm one of the leaders in the Georgia Election Integrity Coalition. We are doing everything we can to try to repeat basically what happened with Glenn Youngkin up in Virginia.
Right.
Sure.
The only problem is they had a whole lot more resources there in Virginia in 2021. And you think about it, because in Virginia, it's an off-year race. It's the gubernatorial race, so you could marshal more resources. So you not only had the state GOP, but you had the RNC putting in serious money and personnel into a state that has seriously atrocious election laws.
Correct.
And regime
and
there. I mean, 45 days of early voting. Come on, people. You know, that's just crazy.
I don't think a lot of people understand, too, that was kind of used as a test pilot for the new election security measures by a lot of nonprofits as well. Like, a lot of resources, not just from the GOP and the political specific parties, but also the nonprofits like yours. The election integrity movement was really heavily involved in that race. It wasn't so much about the candidate, more than just figuring out how to stop the cheating from happening. And so that's why a lot of resources were poured into that race.
But see, here's part of the problem. See, the progressives have been focused on not just electioneering, but the actual conducting and management of elections since Florida 2020. Or excuse me, 2000. I'm sorry, not 2020. Right. Florida in 2000.
Right. The hanging chads and all that.
Exactly. I mean, for most of Voter GA's history here in Georgia, most of the support that we've gotten has been from the progressives, because they knew how bad these electronic voting systems were. Mm-hmm. And it's just, well, I like to say it took what happened in 2020 to wake a bunch of Republicans up to see that, oh, wait a minute. How did this happen?
Right.
Well, we've been advocating for changes for the last 20 years, but we're glad you're here now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, breaking.
We're glad you're here
like
now.
Pennsylvania's governor race got called for Josh Shapiro, which is interesting. Pennsylvania might be a little more suspicious than Georgia, if there's any other state more suspicious than Georgia. I'm trying to say it in a way that won't get kicked off YouTube.
Pennsylvania would be another one of those that again, because of the party dynamics there, where the Republicans have a climb for statewide elections, whereas in Georgia, you know, we are trending purple, and I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but the phenomenon that you know of as Stacey Abrams, the foundation for that was laid back in Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign.
Mm-hmm.
See, these people play the long game, which is why I need all my that post-mill friends to get involved in your local election so you can play the long game and serve your neighbors by making sure we have elections run with transparency and with integrity.
Yeah.
I get that a lot too, and people are really discouraged because they haven't been in the fight for so long, and we're going against a group of people that have been in the fight for a very long time, and they've established themselves very well. And the people that are new to the game can't figure out why they're not getting instant wins. But they just have to realize that it's a long stewarding process where we have to take ownership of this, and it's a long haul. We're not going to see the victories we want to see the first cycle of elections. It's going to take decades, just like it took the opposing party or opposing people, because I think it's a uniparty problem, decades to build what they have. So we're not going to see a slaughter overnight. Correct. But it's going to be something that we need to have diligence for and be faithful in for a long period of time. It's not going to be one or two cycles of an election.
Matt, can I add something to that right there?
Please.
So
do it. Yeah.
Most people think that solving the cheating problem is going to come from the top down. No, the solving of the cheating problem, I mean, if you're waiting for Donald Trump to come back on a white horse and make all these problems go away, you are seriously deluded.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can't fix this. To me, people say, well, Ricardo, you guys have been working so long, you know, and how could you stay? Well, you know what? It was worth it all when we started actually getting information out to the voters who were reasonably concerned. And we said, well, you know what? Your county has a board of elections. They are the immediate point of accountability with regard to how the elections are run in your county.
Yeah.
So when we went from maybe one or two, usually nobody showing up to my county's election board meetings, to 30, sometimes 50 people showing up, and not just showing up to the election meetings, the Board of Elections meetings, just to see what's going on. They've actually studied themselves, and they are insisting that the board do its duty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is what is going to change things. That's what's going to get things moving. So,
and the thing about that, Ricardo, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that we all need to realize, and especially guys like me who want to do like bombastic things, that's not like attractive, like glamorous work. That's like that's thankless work, and it's no one's ever going to care until it yields results. You know what I mean?
It's thankless work, but it's faithful
that's what
work.
we try to do is we try to help people every week. We have a weekly Saturday morning call where we bring people on so that they can see the incremental advance. You know, oh, well, we got people, you know, we got 30 poll watchers in little old county in North Georgia. Nobody cared, for example. And these people are on point. They're taking leadership to be responsible. There's that word again, being responsible for the stewardship God has given them.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, just seeing the last couple of years, I'm actually surprised with how much we've made leaps and bounds in understanding election law, what to do in a situation where we have identity theft, where someone steals our election, the precinct committeeman strategy of getting involved in your local party. These are things that were never on my radar before, and I like to think that I would have been heavily involved in politics, but I didn't know the first thing about the actual mechanics of the elections or what it meant to be a steward of the process. And I think we have a whole group and whole army that has now informed themselves and trained themselves to reap fruit for decades to come. So I'm actually, even though I say it's going to take time, I'm actually very upbeat and encouraged by what I've seen the people do so far. I don't know if you've seen the same thing up in Georgia, Ricardo.
Yeah. Oh, up in Georgia.
Yes, I
You're in
have.
Florida. I was going to say down.
Don't correct me, sir.
You guys are like the same state as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Doesn't even know what to do with that.
network is
Sorry.
caught up.
Sorry about that, brother.
Just some infighting. Just some old co-host
Listen,
drama.
I'm just an ignorant Yankee. Don't even worry about me.
Well, okay, so I see one question in the chat there. How's the football game going to get watched when we all start doing politics? Well, if you really care about all this stuff that's happening in not just in New York State.
Nope, he froze. He froze. That's
the
okay.
suspense of the connection issue is killing me.
Man, it looks like he's gone. That's okay. Yeah. Ricardo's solid, man. He's that guy's preaching.
Yeah, I love it.
He really is. So let me say this. Somebody in the comments says, didn't they say we'd have to wait for days to know the outcome of Pennsylvania?
Only when
Good
it doesn't
point.
go our way, really. We wait days when it goes the GOP way and they have to stuff the ballots. When it goes the DNC way, we'll just let it go through.
I remember, so what he's talking about with the Board of Elections, when I came out of college in 2004, I worked for the Board of Elections for like a period, because it was the first George W. Bush election, and if I'm not mistaken, and I was a Republican election judge recruiter because they needed people to actually like call people and harass them to be Republican election judges, because that's how few Republicans there are in Maryland. Mm-hmm. And I remember I participated in the canvassing afterwards. So like we would count the absentee ballots and we would do this kind of stuff. And I remember thinking like multiple times in that process, like, how can this be the process? Like I could easily throw pretty much all of these ballots away if I wanted to, and probably nobody would see me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and there were so many times where me and this woman would be sitting there as a Democrat, because they had, each table had one, person of each, thing. And I was just like, and she'd go to the bathroom and I'd be like, this can't be how we do this. How is this how we do this? It's just me and you here.
I love it.
Anyway.
As you go to the bathroom, someone comes up behind you and throws away the ballots that you were thinking about.
Right.
Like
right.
It actually happens.
And you would never know, because there's always an endless amount of ballots you had to count. So it's like, you wouldn't know like if the ones you left there were the ones that you saw when you got back. Like someone could easily throw them away. There's just so many like things that we don't even think about, when we're hearing these results coming in. But who's thinking about it? They're thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And honestly, they've probably crafted some of the procedures
100%.
so that you could do that.
100%.
Like that's how far ahead of the game they are on us. We're trying to figure out what they're doing. They're already figuring out their next move to cheat on us.
Well, that's my whole point, because when I was doing this, like I had that thought, but I was just an idiot just right out of college. So like I didn't know what the deal was. Like I didn't know what to look for. But these people they've been crafting these policies, these laws for years.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Interesting stuff. All right. What else we got here? So you put up the map here. What's going on?
No, I didn't put up the map. It was the producer. I think they're trying to hint that we need to talk about what's going on in the election.
All right. So what we've got here is the Senate races, the various Senate races. I see a lot of red, Matt. I don't know.
I see 42-41 so far in the Senate. Do you think that we're going to take control of the Senate?
Yeah, I think
Any predictions there? With
I think so. But it'll be very narrow. It'll be like a 51 kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
What do
we're
you
going to
think?
get maybe 3. I think we're going to get 53. Oh, Ricardo's back.
Okay, so now what do you mean by taking over the Senate? Do you mean a majority of the Republicans are going to be in the Senate? Or
Yes,
do you think
I loosely
that-
mean taking over. Loosely.
Good question, though,
As
Ricardo. I like that.
As long as certain senators from up in the Northeast and up in the Pacific Northwest are still around that have an R behind their name, but they vote blue.
Trust me, I know about those senators.
Yes. So
I just want Donald Trump to stop supporting Mitch McConnell. That's all I want. Is that too much to ask for Christmas?
Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
So
I think he's secretly like Mitch McConnell.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, though. Can I go to senior level political science here on you?
Please.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, the way power works, whether it be in Washington, D.C., or whether it's in your own state capital, usually what happens is those that have the power and control the flow of money, they're the ones that make the rules. You know, there's not a lot of people like Mr. Trump that can just step into national politics and they don't care about raising the millions of dollars necessary to actually do a successful race.
Right.
I mean, if you got you know what, Warnock, I would be surprised if Herschel Walker's campaign raised and spent less than $20 million in this cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And see, guess what? The National Republican Senatorial Committee and Mr. McConnell, he's the one that actually helps direct a lot of that money down to the campaign. So part of the challenge is, and you know, as you can see, I'm a little gray. You know, I was around with the whole, you know, Reagan Revolution and how in the 90s we were going to take over the GOP with the precinct strategy, I might add, which I was a part of.
Uh-huh.
You know, and by the time we got to G.W. Bush, we were already swimming backstrokes. We were swimming backstrokes. It's like, oh, what about the platform that we were fighting for when you guys are just selling us out?
Right.
So we almost need George Gilder visionary savvy on the process of politics and David Bahnsen level capital raising.
Sure.
To fund the Christian nationalism from the ground up at the local level. Because we're not at a place, and quite frankly, won't be in, as far as I'm concerned, another generation to push back on the way things are right now with the resources that we have. Because most of the resources that are coming from the evangelical, for example, they are essentially being funneled by controlled opposition.
Right.
All that money is being funneled through organizations that they are there to deliver your votes to whatever Republicans on the ticket. Period.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I was trying to be more upbeat, but you're right.
Basically, what he's saying though is that this is a long game. We gotta take a nice, comfortable seat in the saddle and get ready for some plotting here.
Right.
Yeah.
Because and I think that's why I'm interested in Alaska's election this time, because the Markowskis are involved in the overthrow of that. Arizona's the last of the McCains. There's a lot of dynasties within the GOP that need to be conquered before we can even think about dominating the liberals and the communists.
But Matt, okay, so for example, in my county, I live in Cherokee County, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
The man who is currently the county commissioner is part of a smaller dynasty. After he essentially was part of getting the county into a public-private partnership where the public was left holding the $18 million bag after it went down. And he was unelected because of his involvement in that. And then, lo and behold, Harry Johnston is back. So it's, yes, I agree, but it's going to take our listeners dealing with the little fiefdoms right in your own backyard.
Right.
Amen. I like it. Well, Ricardo, thank you so much for your insights here. This has been really good. Do you have anything, last-minute things to say? We're going to get a correspondent from Pennsylvania in the next minute or two.
And how do we find out more about your organization, too?
Good job, Matt.
Okay, so parting words, we plow and hoe. So what God has called us to be is faithful.
I like that.
So that last message you heard on Christian nationalism, like make Christian nationalism great again. You need to settle in your heart that you need, as an individual, as a head of a household, a parent of children, you need to say, what can I do within my sphere of influence to advance the kingdom of Christ where I live? And for some of y'all, it's going to involve serving the public. And you need to you need to help create an environment through the preaching of the gospel in your community that will support that level of leadership.
Amen. 100% agree with that.
Amen.
Awesome.
Where do we find your organization? What's the website?
All right. Well, okay, so my little pro-life website is grtl.org. That's Georgia Right to Life. Voters Organized for Trusted Election Results in Georgia, commonly called Voter GA, is voterga.org.
Awesome.
God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good night.
Glad I can help, brothers. Have a great night. You know what? If you're only going to be up till 2 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, I'm tapping out.
We're on the East Coast too, man.
I'm going to bed at probably the same time you are. These guys are going to be up late.
Okay, so now that they got the B team, I guess they're going to bring the A team in.
Eventually, I guess.
I suppose that's how it works.
We're just the B
God bless
team.
you,
We don't
brother.
know.
Take care. All right. Matt, I told you Ricardo was solid.
Oh, man. Great brother.
He's a good dude. Yeah, I had a chance to talk to him at the conference, and a couple times afterwards. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Are you just rubbing it in that I couldn't go to the concert because of the hurricane?
Oh, man, I was so disappointed. And then the last one, you got sick right before it, right? If I'm remembering that correct.
I had the Rona again. Repeat.
Man. Brutal, man. Brutal. That's sad stuff. All right. So we've got another guest coming in. This guest is from Pennsylvania, which, Matt, you gave us the sad news that they're calling this race. So we're going to talk to Davis Younts. Hello, Davis Younts. Let me introduce you real quick here. David Younts is an attorney. He's a 1999 graduate of Liberty University, and he earned his JD in 2002 from the Dickinson School of Law at Pennsylvania State University. He's a recipient of the Association of Trial Lawyers of America Trial Advocacy Award, and he is admitted to practice in military courts, Pennsylvania courts, and in the U.S. District Courts for the Middle and Western Districts of Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Davis. God bless you.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So, Matt, you heard this news. I did not hear this.
Yeah, I just
Is
saw
this
it.
true?
Say it's not so.
Yeah, it's not good news for our governor's race here in Pennsylvania. They have called it for Shapiro. Doesn't look good. Didn't turn out well here.
So what do you think happened?
Well, this was Pennsylvania is an interesting place. For people who aren't from Pennsylvania, the best way to understand it is Philadelphia on the eastern part of the state, Pittsburgh on the western part, and kind of Alabama in the middle. So if you look at a map of Pennsylvania, what you'll see is the huge population center in Philly, big population center in Pittsburgh, and then the rest of the state will go fairly red in most elections. So you've got interesting dynamics here in Pennsylvania when it comes to that. There's still a lot of union votes and things like that, but you have, my opinion is you have a Republican Party in Pennsylvania that controls the state House and the state Senate, and they love being in control, and they don't like controversial candidates. They don't like disruptive candidates. Mastriano claims to be a born-again Christian. He did terrible things like have prayer and him singing at his rallies. I mean, how dare he do something like that? So he was shunned for a long time by any Republican Party establishment inside the state or outside the state. So he had no money to run his campaign. And I don't think not everything he did made sense. He refused to participate in any debates because of the rules that they had in place. So a lot of Pennsylvania voters just didn't know him, and all they had was the negative media coverage of being a Christian nationalist or some kind of a radical. Sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that, Davis, because I have an anecdote about this. My brother lives in the Pittsburgh side, very close to Pittsburgh, in 84, Pennsylvania, and he was talking to some friends about the governor race, and these were Christian friends, people that believers and stuff like that, and they obviously weren't going to vote for Shapiro, but they kept lamenting like, I just wish we had a good candidate. And my brother was a big Mastriano guy, and he's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And essentially they were responding with the propaganda that was in the media about him. And it was just very interesting that they just, these are people that did care at some level, and they're Christians as well, but somehow thought he was the devil. You know what I mean? Very interesting.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, Mastriano was a hero when it came to COVID. When it came to the COVID shutdowns and helping small businesses and doing those things, absolute hero, absolutely outspoken. Everything he did was right. Fantastic help, fighting for churches, keep churches open. All of that was great. And he was great on the election. Now we're electing a Governor Shapiro this is a guy that was instrumental in allowing, vote stealing in Philadelphia in the last election. So that's really unfortunate. But if you have no money, you have no support from the Republican establishment, it got really hard. There was just no way for him to carry that message out and counter the mainstream narrative. So, hopefully there's some lessons learned from this. One of them is this was a good candidate, especially for conservative Christians. This was a great candidate to get behind. But if you weren't following it closely, if you weren't paying attention, there was just no way to break through the mainstream media noise.
Yeah. And you touched on something I think that's worth highlighting too, that probably a lot of people don't know, is there's a big problem in the GOP, especially at the local level. Like, there is a division, and I know from my perspective in Florida, I'm part of the county GOP that the county I live in, and it's not just all love and hugs. That there's a lot of resentment and hate for especially the new crowd coming in, the MAGA crowd, quote unquote, or the Christian nationalist crowd, the people that are trying to overthrow or change the things the way the old guard has done it. And that makes it really difficult to win elections, even when you win the primaries, because you're, like you said, you're not getting those dollars, you're not getting the support. And that's very critical in any race that you go up against, because the Democrats are always, for some reason, seem to be completely unified when it comes to when it counts. And so there's a lot of small battles. We talked about it with our last guest a little bit, that we need to win within the GOP before we can, I think, effectively elect these good candidates that we have that don't have the money, that don't have the resources, because we need as much as we can from the GOP. Would you agree with that, Davis?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And we see that over and over again in Pennsylvania, because you have a GOP that can deliver the state House and the state Senate. So there's people that are just very, very afraid to disrupt any of that and to take out any of that leadership. So even though it's compromised, it's sort of a uniparty here when it comes to that. And there's very few people that will stand out and do things. Mastriano was one of those, and he made enemies as a state senator because he did take on these issues. He did stand out. He did advocate for these things. So was shunned by the Republican Party. He had to do this at a grassroots level, and there was no money. It was very, very difficult for him to raise money.
Right. Case in point for what you're saying. I mean, in my opinion, this Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz, is a horrible candidate in my opinion. Like it just doesn't seem to make any sense at all. But he's very competitive. You know what I mean? As a candidate,
which I don't understand at all.
How
is that guy competitive?
Right. It makes no sense. That primary election for Senate was a mess here in Pennsylvania. You know, Oz is not a Pennsylvania guy. He's not from Pennsylvania.
He has dual citizenship, for heaven's sakes.
Right. He's a Jersey guy. And there's an element of Pennsylvania folks that are just not going to vote for a Jersey guy. I mean, let's just be realistic about that.
I know that element. Absolutely. Listen, there's a lot of Jersey guys that won't vote for a Jersey guy.
Right?
Oh,
right?
You Yanks.
So that's absolutely there, and it's not just a matter of opinion when it comes to Oz being a bad candidate. He's never had. I mean, his favorability rating's never been over 40%, right? So that's a close race. It's not looking good. I mean, I'm looking at the analysis, looking what's happened in the past. It doesn't look good for him right now. They're not calling it yet, but the numbers are not. If you look at it at the county level, the numbers are not there. But he's not a good candidate. He's never been above that 40%. But he was, again, picked by the Republican establishment within Pennsylvania as the least offensive. And there wasn't a ton of great candidates out there to choose from. But it was really unfortunate that he came through because, look, you know, a guy like Mastriano, with money, with support, with TV ads, could have won. He could win in Pennsylvania. People just don't have any idea who he is, other than people that were closely engaged in the COVID battles. But again, it's a big state. You got to have a lot of money to get the message out there.
Yeah, he was such a good candidate. I mean, he was really good. Like, there's a lot of GOP people that I hold my nose and vote for, and he is one of the few where I would have no reservations whatsoever about voting for him. And it's just sad to see that I don't know if it's just tactics or strategy, but he just wasn't able to figure that piece out, and we're really seeing the results of that.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, the free media attention that he got over COVID and some of the election stands that he took, I think he thought that would give him the name recognition he needed. But, you know, not being able to participate in a debate or anything else like that, I just think hurt him. I think he would have done great in a debate. The other thing I will say that's a lesson is, you know, everything Shapiro did, every single campaign ad for Shapiro, you have no idea what he stands for. Every single campaign ad, you would think he was the biggest pro-family, you know, conservative, a wonderful father figure type. Every single ad, no issues, all about just, you know, pro-family things. Which is absolutely not who he is. You know, the worst kind of human, in my opinion, you know, very much pro-abortion, transgender, all those issues. So
right.
It's interesting that you say that, and probably he did that because he knew he didn't have to worry about counterattacks with ads at all.
Absolutely not. There was none.
So why even bother?
Right. He didn't even have to mention Mastriano. He could just run fluff ads.
Great. So you're saying a whole bunch of Philadelphia people and Pennsylvania people are going to be moving to my state of Florida. Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for the great news.
No, but you don't understand, though. The people that are in that Alabama section and like in the rural parts of the Pittsburgh, they're good people. They say weird stuff like yins. What's that yins thing? Weird.
I just got a breaking news. J.D. Vance wins the U.S. Senate in Ohio. So looks like Ohio and Florida are turning from swing states to solid red states, which is interesting dynamic for the future.
That's awesome. That's great news.
Yeah. I had to bring it back up to positive level after all that depressing.
There's all this depressing Pennsylvania news, and they're right next door. So, all right, I understand what you're doing.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens in 2024 with the different shifts that we're seeing and what's going to be considered a swing state, what's going to be a battleground state. I don't know if that's going to be really clear and for a little while of where is going to be the money that's going to be poured into.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, you know, all hope is not lost in Pennsylvania. I don't think we're lost here. I think if you would have had a fair election, if we're even allowed to say that, right, in 2020, I think you have a different result in Pennsylvania. It was very, very close. Some things that happened didn't make sense. They just boarded up the windows in Philadelphia. They did crazy things there. So there's always going to be election fraud in Philadelphia. It's
Sure.
just it's part of what's baked into the system. But Republicans have to win by wider margins. We have to do a better job with candidates as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. For sure.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know if you were here earlier when we were talking about this. You looked very stressed out, and the New York Times has said that
You
the New
love
York
this
Times
article.
has said that if you are too stressed out, one thing you might want to consider is plunging your face into a bowl of ice water for 30 seconds. Not even joking. This is a real article that they put out there.
It's a real article. They're taking advice from cartoons that we grew up listening to. That's the level of the New York Times right now in their sophistication.
Oh man. All right. Well, so Pennsylvania's not done. Is there any silver lining here? Or is there anything that's happening good right now?
Tell me Catherine Barnett's going to come back. I want to see her.
I think she is. I think she's really exciting. I think that if, some of the Republican establishment hadn't done a hit job on her last minute, I think that she would have been the candidate in the Senate. Military veteran, abortion survivor, great story. She was a keynote speaker at a March for Life we had here. She's fantastic. Got the crowd all fired up. So I do think there's hope for the future there. She's a veteran, great military record. So there were some hit pieces that were done. So I think there's definitely hope for the future there. And again, there's a whole lot of Pennsylvania that really is pro-life, that is conservative, that is pro-Second Amendment. So there is hope. It's not time to give up yet.
Yeah, we need Christians to get involved in the local GOP there. Learn their Robert Rules of Order and start making a difference at the local level so that there can be support for these great candidates the next time around.
I think that's true too, and we need better theology in our churches here too. I'll say that there's a history and a tradition of sort of pacifistic, separatist sort of faiths, Amish, Mennonite, Quakers, Brethren, things like that. So we need a little bit of a revival in some of our churches to get culturally engaged as well, and I think that's important.
Amen.
That's a really good point. There's a lot of Presbyterianism in the Pittsburgh area, but it's also sort of this kind of pietistic, spirituality of the church sort of Presbyterianism, and that's tough. That's tough to overcome.
It is. You did see Amish for Trump. Like Amish typically don't vote, but you had Amish for Trump. You had buggies with big Trump flags. You had some of that vote for Mastriano, but it didn't get out the same way. So maybe those folks will come out in the next election cycle, and that will help as well.
Well, God bless. Thank you so much for participating here. Any last words, any last comments, anything you want to plug, anything like that?
I just want to say, pray for our leaders, pray for the other elections that are close, pray for Maricopa County. I'm hearing scary things out there of what's going on. So be in prayer for Arizona for sure, that there's no funny business out there.
Yeah, Katie Hobbs is leading, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing. I know you guys probably are too. I'm hearing firsthand accounts of real problems in Maricopa County.
Sure.
So,
20% of the machines weren't working.
I talked to people that, literally the person standing in front of them couldn't get their ballot counted, and there's a mess there. So pray for that.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Davis, for joining.
Hey, thanks, guys. Take care.
Cheers.
All right, take care. God bless. All right. Well, not the greatest news, I guess, Matt. But
I know, it's getting depressing. I thought it was going to be a strong night all around.
He seemed he's had a lot of hope for the future, which that kind of enthusiasm is infectious,
Yeah. He did bring up a good point, though, that the church needs to, have a good, strong theology. And, the Presbyterians just need to stop promoting transgenderism, really. That's what I came here to say.
That's not what I heard.
I'm just kidding.
But
John
anyway,
Harris is here, right?
John Harris is here. Let's bring him in. I don't have a full bio for John Harris. John, God bless you, brother. Let me just introduce him real quick. He is he's the voice and maybe the president or the CEO of Conversations That Matter podcast. He's a personal friend. I love him. John, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks, AD. I appreciate you having me. Excuse me. I'm almost choking on my throat there. This is a night that's going to determine whether or not I'm going to be a post-millennialist. So things are looking good. With me. But,
Listen. I'll tell you what. When I told Matt that you were in New York, he didn't believe me. He was like, "What? He's in New York? What's he doing in New York?" I don't know. I guess he just
For
Just
some
like New
reason,
York.
I thought you were like in Tennessee or something. For some reason, I don't know
I was in
why.
Virginia about a year
Okay.
ago, and I moved back up. I actually grew up in upstate New York for the most part. My dad's actually a pastor here, and both sides of the family in the Catskill region, Hudson Valley region. And so we bought a house when we got married in 2016, still have the house, and that kind of is our tie. But I don't think we'll be here forever because when you go vote, they give you things like this. I kid you not. This is,
Look at this thing.
yeah.
That's their sticker. That's their voted sticker.
That's what. So, a 14-year-old apparently designed this particular Rage comic, purple people eater.
Was her name
caffeine,
Legion?
Like, yeah, right. Like, yeah. It was a dispensationalist teenager. No, it was. So, they had like a online vote, like who wants to design, of the high schoolers, who wants to design our next voting sticker, and you had eagles and American flags, and
Sure, the normal
93% of the people in my county, overwhelming majority, thought this is what we should have. I mean, I don't even.
It's a spider. What is it?
I don't know. I think there's a passage in Revelation about it. I'm not sure which one, but
Yeah, it's Ezekiel or Revelation or something.
so the next town over, one of the guys running for like city council tattooed it on his arm before the election. And local politicians have been weighing in saying how great it is that the young people are participating in democracy and how much they love this image. And I can't find any explanation online for what it is. So I got it after, and I thought this is a joke. I'm driving home and I said to my wife,
yeah.
I said, well, this, I don't care who wins. Like America and specifically where I live lost. Like I got to really figure out what's going on with my neighbors if they approve this. And she said, well, you sound like an old man. There's a reason for it. You just got to look it up. So I looked it up. There is no reason. There's nothing. There's no explanation.
She was hoping there was a reason.
And all the politicians are saying how great it is, and they have nothing to say. They're just saying it's great that democracy works, and then it is this. It's this.
I was told that democracy was on the ballot, and I got to say, I hope it loses if this is what it produces.
Yeah. 93% of my neighbors. Can you imagine living in a place where 93% of your neighbors think that's cool? That's what we're
rad.
about
That's really
here.
rad.
I know I scoffed at Pennsylvanians moving down to Florida, but I think you guys just both need to move down here. It's a safe space. Come on down.
Well, yeah. No,
I'm considering and Florida's looking better and better. The only problem is the only mountain is Space Mountain, and we like mountains. My wife grew up in the mountains, so
yeah, that's tough.
It is weird, especially when you're trying to get used to a new area and you're used to looking for mountains for directions and there's none.
Sure.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
I like Florida too, Matt, and I know I always tease you with that, but like I do actually
hurts.
really like Florida.
I mean, it's so bad. Look at even what I'm wearing. I have a Colorado hat. I have an Alaska. Like every other
You're
state
lost.
in New York is. You're exactly. I'm just like pretending I'm part of all these other places. So
Yeah. Well, so what's going on in New York, man? Like I understand that somehow the governor race was up for debate. Like what's going on?
So they're waiting on Long Island right now, as I understand it.
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, Zeldin's from Long Island, and that's like his territory. It's more red there. But, I mean, it's not looking good. At this point, I have the live updates in front of me, and they have about 50% in, and she's at almost 65%. So
how red can it be is what I'm really trying to say here. You know what I mean?
now, like in the remaining counties are red for the most part. So it just is going to depend on how many people voted for Zeldin. But it's not looking good. And I never thought, most people didn't think Zeldin had a shot. The fact that it was even within the bounds of possibility was kind of a change. So.
Well, that's why people don't know this, but I contacted John like an hour ago to say, hey, do you want to be on the show? Because people were telling me that New York was in play, and I was like, I didn't think it was in play, but hey, bring John on. He's a good guy.
I mean, look at that sticker. How can it be in play?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. It's like, all the big issues, and I'm like so concerned about this sticker. I'm like telling everyone. I was at a ministry meeting earlier today, and I'm like showing everyone. I'm like, this is the sticker they gave us.
Who cares about the governor's race? Look at this sticker.
Exactly. But, in all seriousness, they haven't called it yet, which is kind of rare. This is a little weird. It does indicate something's in the water. People are, I think, upset about, we just lost two two members of the Electoral College. Because of the population decrease happening in New York, people are moving out like you would not believe in my area.
I believe it. They're coming here.
It's a complete population replacement. City people moving up, local people moving to Tennessee, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina. And
I even heard Gordon Sanchez did, which is crazy.
Gordon Sanchez moved last week. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I know. It's New York will not be the same. In fact, I think he could have stopped this sticker, and because he wasn't here. No, you know, the thing with New York is I grew up here, and I mean, I was an election inspector. I was there the first year they rolled out the machines. I don't think they were Dominion, but they had like the machines that you scan your ballots. And I remember like a bunch of us were asking, so these can't be hacked, right? Like, and everyone's like, no, this would never. This is more secure than the paper ballots. And we were all very skeptical. And I don't know to what extent there's fraud, but it seemed like once the Democrats got in like, and I can't tell you the year, it was like around 2000, like 10-ish. Once they got the Assembly, the Senate, and the governorship, they never lost any of that. And so throughout the 90s and early 2000s, you had a Republican governor, Pataki. You had the Senate was always controlled by Republicans, and the Democrats only had the Assembly. Well, now it's been about 15 years that the Democrats have had everything, and they've had the governorship for 20. So yeah, they lock the door behind them. There's no way, for some reason, it's just weird how that works. It happened in California. It happens in every state that when they flip, they really flip.
Yeah. And
the typical New York conservative, excuse me, is a fiscal conservative kind of. They're, you know, they have some talking points that sound kind of Republican, but let's just say in Tennessee or even in Florida, probably they would be considered Democrats. Like they are to the left. They're pro-abortion for the most part. They would almost universally be for gay marriage. That's just your New York Republican. So it's, even if the Republicans win, we still have a pro-abortion governor in place no matter what. Like that's how sad it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's how it's like in New Hampshire too, to be honest.
Is it?
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah. No, we actually, John, if you get a chance, you know, to rewatch the beginning part of this show, we were talking to a guy who's been involved with election integrity stuff for decades at this point. And, he kind of gives you a little bit of a play-by-play of how that, you know, closing the door behind you happens. You know what I mean?
Really?
Where they're very dedicated to a lot of the unglamorous, you know, boards and executive positions that, you know, they don't pay anything. They're not like a glamorous position. But they can make the rules, so to say, and that's what really counts. I mean, who's actually conducting these elections? That counts a lot,
right? The poll workers and the poll watchers and all that,
and what they do, and yeah.
They have an organized ground campaign and you know, machine basically that we just can't tap into, or we don't have, and I don't know exactly why that is, but we just don't. We're too busy going fishing and playing with our kids and all that. So
I feel attacked. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you know what I did today?
AD's fault.
So I'm really into archery, right?
Oh, that is so awesome.
So this is my Matthews compound bow, which I can only fit in like part of the screen here.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But no, I set up a target today outside. I spent basically my whole day building. My whole election day before I got the sticker was spent building an area for my target. And then I thought I did a great job, and my wife came out and she's like, "That's really ugly. I hope you hide that when you're not using it." And I was like, "Oh man." But you know, we have hobbies is my point, and we have lives, we have kids, we have church, we have all sorts of things that are useful. And some of these people on the left, like that's their whole life, their purpose in life, and they're fine with it is to go into a boring position that will help them overturn the elections of a state, and that's crazy. But
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and when you think about it, you know, obviously in the long game, you know, our strategy is going to win, but we can walk and chew gum at the same time. You know what I mean? Like a lot of us are very capable, and we can do these kinds of things. But I think you're right. I think honestly you're right. You know, this is their life. This is their salvation. This is what they're working for. And I don't mean salvation like they don't think that this is like their spiritual salvation, but this is what their whole life is about.
I think some of them do actually though. Like that is their substitute. Like seriously, they only have a heaven on earth. And
totally, that's the substitute.
Right.
Even if they claim to not believe in a spiritual reality, it's definitely their substitute. Because what else is there for them?
Right.
It just goes black like Tony Soprano at the end of the show.
Yeah.
You know?
And they're good at rewarding their own, aren't they? Like the Democrats will do that. They'll take their worst actors and they'll be like, "Oh, you lost 3 elections, and because you're so radical, let's run them again." And
that's true.
One Republican loses, and it's like you never hear their name again.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was noticing that with Stacey Abrams. How many times?
Very good point.
Hasn't Stacey Abrams lost like 2 or 3 times already?
Right.
And every time she comes back, she's more insane than she was the last time. So it's like it's like they reward like you just going whole hog, going all in. You know what I mean?
Let's not forget Joe Biden, who ran for president before and then withdrew because he got nailed for plagiarism.
Oh, right.
They put him back up when he was senile. That's how loyal they are.
That is pretty loyal, though.
And the Republicans right now are like, Trump's had his day. You can't the establishment.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
What?
That's actually good. That's actually a good point because I'm hearing a lot of stuff about Trump, and his vaccine pushing, which that's true. I hate that about him, but everyone was doing it, so it's like it's okay. So that's the cardinal sin. So if you did that, there's no recovery from that. None. That's interesting that because that's not how it would be on the other side.
Yeah.
No, they would just ignore. I mean, who's the guy in California, the senator who slept with that Chinese spy?
I don't even know his name, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Eric Swalwell.
It's like that. I can't believe the guy's still actually in office. Not only that, making attack ads. Not only that, I think he probably won tonight.
He's on the Intelligence Committee.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Republicans would never if something sniffs like it smells like it might be something related to that, they're done.
Yeah. That's why that's why I am actually really excited about AD being a Christian nationalist and starting to vote again. Is I think a lot of this stems from the idea of conservatism that we just are against things. We're against government. We vote against government. So we're never going to get involved in government. We don't want to learn about how it works because we're against it. We want small government and we want nothing to do with big government. So just whatever is limited government, we're going to be for it, opposed to Christian nationalism, which I think takes on a biblical framework of stewardship and learning and cultivating and building. And I think just that kind of new perspective and shift helps us be able to see these things as valuable, even if they are boring or tedious or something that takes work, because it's something that God has called us to do instead of just being anti-big government. And I think that's why we've been conquered for so long, is we've taken out that stewardship element that we have in the other spheres. We have it in our church, we have it in our families, but for some reason we never applied it to the government sphere whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, dude. That's good stuff, man. This is why the people miss the Matt Williams contributions here on the internet, man. They want Reformed back. They want to see this kind of stuff. I like that.
You're the big shot now. I think you're too big for me.
Dude, I don't know if you've seen my channel. I've lost a ton of subscribers lately.
Oof.
Because
really?
Yeah, because there's a couple reasons, and we don't have to go into it here, but I've been sticking up for the nominal Christians a little bit, not to say that they're like the greatest thing since sliced bread, but just to say that, we shouldn't treat them like pariahs. We should actually try to reach out to them. And that's enough to lose a lot of subscribers.
Really?
Apparently.
Let's lose some more live viewers right now. What's a nominal Christian, just out of curiosity?
It's like someone who, they were baptized as a kid.
Picture of one right here. There's a nominal Christian right here.
I'm defending
So they're from New York. It's okay.
If you want to know what AD believes in this picture.
It's like a Christian who, they call themselves a Christian. They were baptized as a kid, maybe. And, they always used to go to church as a kid, but, they don't believe in anything. They just they're a Christian because they're American, that kind of thing. And so I think that the nominal Christian gets the worst treatment of any person on the planet from most evangelicals. You know what I mean? I don't think that's appropriate. I think that's messed up, because I think that you should treat those people like with respect, and say, and look, you've got a higher calling, you bear the name of Christ, that means something, man. Like, and we should reach out to those people and work with those people. Because a lot of them have a moral compass that they got when they were a kid, and they know right from wrong. But they might not be a believer, they might not be regenerate, but I feel like those are the converts usually. In my experience, I have conversations with nominal Christians, and they get really mad that I dare to say that they're really not a Christian. But honestly, like, those are the people that eventually convert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you're saying don't treat them like Trump and the vaccine. Don't shun them.
Don't shun them. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And people really don't like that, apparently.
Yes. You have to pick a camp, and you can't be with anyone or support anyone outside that circle.
The harvest is white with that crowd, though. I think you're absolutely right. That's like the one place that we're not reaching out to on an elite, higher level that we should be. So yeah, I totally agree. It's funny too when you move around. So it obviously in New York, I don't know if you hear this, AD. They'll say like, "Oh, not like those Christians down south who aren't really Christians."
All the time.
You go down south. I was in Virginia, North Carolina, right? So you're in North Carolina and Virginia, and they're like, well, not like those Christians. And then they'll point to like in the rural areas, like, that they're not, they only go to church because they're parents. Then you go to the rural areas and they're like, well, not like those Christians at Jerry Falwell's church. It's always somewhere else. It's never just weird to me that it moves so often. But, there's a specific, I don't know what it is. Like, it's like a hatred or a competition almost of like, I think it's trying to bolster our own authenticity. We're authentic here. Over there, where they're not hearing us say it, they're not. So, yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, my
pleasure.
I said,
this is just a casual conversation. God bless you, brother. Is there anything you want to plug? Any last things you want to say before we let you go?
Are you doing any documentaries? I want to see some more of your documentaries.
Yeah.
Actually, I just had a phone call about one today. We're doing the 1607 project.
That's what I like to hear.
Within hopefully the next few weeks, it keeps getting pushed off, but we'll have 1607 project.com up, and I've already made the trailer and everything, and it's going to be a competitor to the 1619 project.
Amazing.
So that's one of the things we're doing, and worldviewconversation.com is the website, and you can go check it out there.
Great.
Thanks, John. God bless you. Have a good night. All right.
My pleasure. Bye now.
All right. Well, we have another guest too, and so we've got Robert Bortons. Robert is in North Carolina. He's going to give us the skinny of what's going on there. But let me just introduce him. He is the CEO of Classical Conversations, Inc. Robert is a member of the board of directors of Homeschool Now USA and sits on the academic board of the Classical Learning Test. He is also a member of C12, the largest professional development network of Christian CEOs and executives. This is good stuff. This is right up your alley, Matt. Robert, thank you for joining. If my kids knew I was talking to the CEO of Classical Conversations, they would be so excited, but they're asleep.
As they should be.
Yeah, right.
Because they've got their community day tomorrow. So
at least half America's asleep as well. It appears based on the current.
Because they started watching this show and fell asleep.
Oh man, that's true. That's true. Well, Robert, thanks for joining. And you're in North Carolina, so I guess you're supposed to give us this perspective from what's going on there.
Yeah, we just got some results that Ted Budd will win his Senate seat, so that's a hold. It does look like North Carolina will not quite get a GOP supermajority. It looks like we might be one vote short in the House. We have a Democrat governor, so it's definitely a interesting night. I have spoken to someone that's close to the Walker Senate race in Georgia. They do think that they can win tonight with over 50%. If you're not familiar with the Georgia rules, if you don't get above 50%, it goes to a runoff. The Georgia Republicans were smart enough to make the runoff in early December versus early January, which was terrible, which is why we're in this mess with them losing 2 seats. And then, it looks like we are going to flip the House, but it's going to be a little bit more of a red ripple at this point. And, everything's kind of up in the air right now. So
does that surprise you? Did you think it was going to be a red wave, or did you think the ripple was coming?
Well, the results that we've seen tonight are very interesting, I guess. They're not really reflective of the polls and of the direction that the country's going and what we've heard from voters.
Right.
Some of the rules that we've seen, such as like Arizona, we're not going to know for 2 weeks. Washington, we're probably not going to know for a week. Pennsylvania, we're not going to know for a week. So I'm still pretty optimistic that we're going to flip the House with 51 or 52 seats. But with every
flip the Senate, 51, 52.
Senate, yeah, flip the Senate. So Arizona, about 15% of ballots were dropped off today, which are going to be the last ones counted. So if Republicans are down by about 10% after in the morning, then there's still a good chance that they'll win those seats. But it's it's going to kind of be opposite almost of what happened in 2020 if Republicans are going to take the Senate. And so it's very, abortion seems to have won the day in a couple of the states where that was on the ballot and people could vote on it. So obviously very disappointing. But I think as Christians, the first thing we need to do is lead our house, and then we need to be leaders in our church, and then we need to lead our local communities. So the nice thing about being a Christian is Jesus is king, and it starts with us and being Christians in our own household and living out the Bible on a daily walk. So, ultimately, we know that we're going to win, but definitely disappointing night tonight if you were rooting for the Republican Party. And even if it ends up not going the Democrats' way in the end, I think the Democrats are going to be happy. And it doesn't look like there's been a lot of COVID blowback or, mutilation of children blowback or go back from allowing men to participate in women's sports, which is obviously sad and disappointing for the women of the world and the women of the United States.
Yeah. I would say, just kind of anecdotally, when I was at the polls in New Hampshire, we have that thing. I don't know if this is across the country, but we have that thing where you could register that day if you want to and vote. What I noticed is that almost every single person that was registering same day was a woman. And around where I live, that means that there's a very good chance that like abortion's on their mind. You know what I mean? They want to make sure that they can kill babies if they want to. And that's really sad that's got that, like, but at least at the end of the day, like, at least we know kind of where things are at right now. And honestly, like, we got to be realistic about that. Like, if that's the issue that's motivating people to get to the polls, like, that's something that we need to really reckon with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We need to start thinking about growing our own farms and starting our own parallel culture. The other thing that just kind of seeing out there is that the Democrats have really outperformed because Republican leadership, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, have really badmouthed and picked losers over people that could win. They want to be in the in crowd. They want to be part of the cool crowd. And so they've really abandoned and alienated some of the Donald Trump base. Donald Trump, of course, I would say did not really lift up his candidates very well. So I think, some blame could be laid on his feet. But there is a lot of infighting in the Republican Party that's behind the scenes, and I think that's part of the results of tonight as well.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Robert and Matt. I think you probably are interested in what he said there about, right before this, where he said we might want to start, growing our own or having our own businesses, growing our own food, things like that. That's something that I know, Matt, you've been thinking about for a few years. Why do you say that, Robert? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, if you're a Christian nationalist, which I'm more of a Christian universalist, I guess, we're gonna go take over Mars as well. If Elon Musk has
hyper
his way.
post mill person.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
But I think that it doesn't matter how bad our laws are or how corrupt our politicians are or our elections. If we all behave as Christians ought to behave, looking to the Lord to give good gifts, not looking to the government to give good gifts, then it doesn't matter how corrupt they are. And so we need to make sure that we aren't abandoning each other, that we are coming together and, like you guys were talking about beforehand, if winning elections is important to us, we need to be more strategic. We need to be willing to do the dirty work and make that case. So, ultimately, I think right now, kind of if you're a Republican or conservative, you're low right now. I think ultimately the final results will be a little bit better than what we're feeling at the moment.
Sure.
But, there's going to be a lot. Don't believe the mainstream media when they say we nominated bad people, because that was really based on the leadership of Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy and them bad-mouthing the individuals who were selected and really not supporting them financially, wasting money, wasting the dollars that they raised in states that like they gave Rubio a ton of money and they won the state by like 10 points. That money could have easily been given to Nevada or Arizona or Pennsylvania. When they abandoned Doug Mastriano, that really hurt Oz, because if Doug Mastriano performs 3 or 4 points better, then Oz is probably, up 5-6 points at this point. So everything is intertwined, and it was really a failure of Republican leadership, which ultimately might be a blessing if we can get both of those guys out and people who really want to see conservative ideas and Christian ideas promoted in the United States in. And so there's always a silver lining, and we'll see what happens.
I like what you're saying, because you're so right though. At the end of the day, our opponents, our enemies, they're going to do what they have to do. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they do. We still got to do what we got to do. You know what I mean? And so we've got to be faithful. We've got to understand where our help comes from. And so, no, that's good stuff, man. I appreciate that. Matt, do you have anything to add there? Because I know you've been thinking about these kinds of things, because I know we've texted about these kinds of things before.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the first thing I would say is stop giving money to the GOP for the exact reasons Robert Borton said.
Woo!
If you want to support specific GOP candidates like Doug Mastriano or some Kathy Barnett in the future, then give to them directly. We need to defund Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. That's the first thing. And then secondly, going to the parallel economy that Andrew Torba from the Gab has kind of been branding and pushing, is we not only need to think about it from an individual perspective, but a community perspective. How do we facilitate and help local communities? And that requires intentionality. And maybe instead of buying 10% of your groceries for the next 3 or 4 months from the grocery store, you take that 10% and buy it from a local farm, and you help support local businesses, because everything starts local, even politics, even at the national level, which seems to be kind of a theme of what we've been talking about with all of our different guests, is that we need to be diligent and good stewards at the local level of our government, of the functionality of the voting process, and all these different things, which is supported by the local businesses, our local community, our local faithful churches. So we just need to have the right strategic mindset, starting locally, thinking communally, and thinking about how we invest those resources in the ways that glorify God the most, so that we can be that hyper post-mill, whatever you guys are nowadays.
And you see what happens with this too is like you buy your, like, because I'll just give you an example. Like I bought a pig from someone locally, and that person's a friend, and like not only do I get food for the family, but I'm making a connection there, and someone that loves me, I love him. We've got each other's backs, and so at the end of the day, like if things really start hitting the fan, he knows he can count on me. And so the thing is, you can't make that kind of relationship with Amazon or Walmart. You know what I mean? Like if you pay them, they'll give you the food. That they're not going to stop doing that probably, but there's no reciprocation there. They don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Robert. It sounds like you were about to say something.
Oh, no, I mean, I think, it really does start, like, we still have nonprofit tax donations here in the U.S., so if we want to stop abortion in our towns, let's give to those local pregnancy centers. Let's start a house where moms who are in trouble and running away from, a bad boyfriend or a bad husband can live for free, and we're, really just living out the gospel day to day. So there's really nothing about the end result tonight that doesn't stop us from creating that locally and then, giving that vision and providing, that framework so that we can implement it elsewhere. So again, I think, it's, I was looking forward to a red wave. I thought, a lot of things were in the Republicans' favor, but I also thought the Republicans were kind of shooting themselves in the foot with some of their messaging, because a lot of times they're just Democrat socialist light, and that's really not going to bring out a lot of those Trump voters who were, just blue collar workers, believe in hard work, believe in really just getting out there with the American dream, because Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell and other Republican leaders want to be the cool kids. They want to hang out with the tech guys and those type of things. And so they, really betrayed a lot of voters over and over again. And if you looked at their favorable ratings, like Nancy Pelosi and even the New York Senate leader, Democrats like them. Mitch McConnell actually has a higher likely. The people who like him more are Democrats than Republicans. If you look at his who likes him the most. So it's they're not motivating anyone to get out, and they're not trying to see what's going on. DeSantis did a great job. He's been cleaning up Florida. He really instilled trust in the election by firing the people who were, creating discord. One of the counties, of course, Miami-Dade went Republican for the first time in forever. But what he was doing was he was going in, they were finding corruption. They were really showing it and firing those people. So if you don't feel comfortable in the election, if you feel like the Democrats are going to steal it no matter what, and the Republicans are happy to sit on the sideline and let them do it, then, that's going to really drive down your voting. And like you guys said earlier, too, is if you don't know Jesus Christ and you don't know where you're going to go when you die, then you're going to try to make really this earth as close to heaven as you can be. And, you're going to try to make it after your own vision because you don't understand what the vision the Lord has for it. So it's always hard. It's not that Republicans think or conservatives think that government can't be and can't do good things. It's just we think it's really limited in what it should be doing, and so we're not really focused on doing that. I mean, if you look at really what the Democrats have is people with PhDs and master's degree and people on welfare. Parents in the middle class are with the GOP, but that's not sexy. And so if you want to be part of the sexy crowd, you're going to abandon your base. And I think that's what ultimately we saw with the results tonight.
Well, Robert, thanks for coming on. We've got someone coming on from Michigan, so we're going to say goodbye to you. But before we do, anything you want to plug? Because I'll tell you right now, I'm serious. My kids love doing CC. My wife was a tutor for a bit. We're all about it. And listen, if you want to command the future, you gotta get those kids, man. Those kids. What do you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, classicalconversations.com. We have local communities, not just here in the U.S., but in over 50 countries. There's about 130,000, 140,000 students in our program, and it's all about giving them a firm foundation so they know who they are in Jesus, and they can really defend themselves no matter what the world brings, because we know we have victory in Christ.
Let me just say this, because this is what was so impressive to me, and this is a small thing. But it's not a small thing. When you walk into a Classical Conversations, community class, they've got this whiteboard, and it's got all their lessons, all over the place on the side. They got their math, they got their whatever, but right in the center, everything connects to God. God is the center of all of it, all of math, all of science, all of everything. And just even knowing that your kids are walking into school every day and seeing that, even that small thing, it's like that's going to do a number on their brains, man. Every single time they know they're going to learn anything. It's like, yeah, but this is all because it's revolving around God. God created this to be what it is, and they know that going. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. God bless you, Robert. God bless.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Have a good evening.
All right, guys. Have a good evening. All right. We've got one more guest.
One more, the final one. Who is it?
We've got Greg Moore from Michigan.
Oh.
Greg, welcome to the show.
Whoa.
Wow. This just looks like a... It looks like a...
Did we have a podcast on?
Well, anyway, so Greg Moore, he's a real estate broker, county commissioner, and a musician. He was a project manager with a Fortune 500 company, but now he owns his own business. Growing up in a Christian home, Greg always loved discussing religion and politics. He enjoys hunting, camping, and worshiping on his keyboard or drums. Greg resides in Michigan with his wife Samantha of 15 years and 3 children. Greg, welcome to the show. Sorry for getting you when you weren't ready. I'm sorry, but you look good.
No, that's fine. No, I moved the camera a little bit. I didn't know if we were going in widescreen mode or what there, but yeah, AD, Matt, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're excited about it. We're excited. So I guess the thing is though that you're supposed to talk to us about Michigan, and I guess there's a proposition that's in play. From what I understand, it's about abortion, and there's a governor election, which I don't know how that's going to go.
And my boy, Matt DePerno from Secretary of State.
Yeah,
So even Matt knows even more than that. So there you go. What's going on, man?
Yeah, Matt knows the Matt. Yeah, Matt was just down in my district a few days ago, and I was talking to him. It's crazy, man. A lot of people are watching Michigan. We've had one of the most progressive, liberal governors in the last 50 years nationally here in Michigan. If you guys have been following anything in Michigan, even during the COVID era, I mean, the shutdowns, she was, she rivaled even Mussolini out there in California.
Oh, yeah.
And just scandal after scandal as well, too. I mean, her husband was caught on tape saying, hey, I'm the husband of the governor, get my boat out on the water first, even though we're in lockdowns. And, I mean, she was wrestling people out of churches and shutting down small businesses. And it was pretty crazy. So we thought we had a lot of excitement going into this election. Unfortunately, I was listening just a few minutes ago how you guys were talking about politics and how even McConnell and from the federal level down, politics is a game for most, and it is trying to pick winners and losers. We got more of the establishment pick in our Republican candidate, Tudor Dixon. A lot of people weren't happy with that. Grassroots weren't happy with that, but they did unite around her. A lot of people felt that she came in way too late. I mean, she did not start campaigning until about a month and a half ago, and was playing catch up. As of, I think this morning, she was maybe 2 or 3 points down. Statistical tie in some other polls, but that never looks good.
I just saw that the race was called for Gretchen Whitmer.
Was it just called? Because
that's what I'm seeing, yeah.
I think we have 37.5% in right now, and it's 51-47 Whitmer, which is just, just amazing to me. I mean, the things that people went through, both Democrat and Republicans in this state over the last 4 years, especially the last 2 years, I thought we would be more competitive. When I say we, I'm saying Republicans. I'm an elected official, a county commissioner as a registered Republican. I'm a platform Republican. But unfortunately, at the federal and state levels, many Republicans have not maintained their platform. If that's the platform we vote on every 4 years on, for presidential runs. But it's just unreal. Our attorney general is, stumbling around drunk at Michigan State games. Says a drag queen in every school. Just gaffe after gaffe, and yet she's still up 4 or 5% right now. So, kind of to echo what Robert was saying, just very disappointing in Michigan. Yeah. There's a few silver linings in Michigan, and then more importantly, and probably the most important thing on the ballot was a constitutional amendment. Okay, this isn't a legislative act. This went to the people for a referendum. It's going to amend our Constitution, and it is the most radical and liberal proposal for both not only abortion, but also for castration and trans rights. I'm using air quotes there. And that is passing right now, 54 to 45% or 46% right in there. And, I mean, this proposal says abortion on demand up to the minute of birth, doesn't have to be done by a doctor. It could just be a medical practitioner, doesn't need parental consent at any age. Teacher, counselor can take a 12-year-old to the hospital, have an abortion, doesn't have to tell the parent. And then on top of that, castration of young children with no parental consent. And then to follow that all up, it's all wrapped in language at the very end that says, in any law pertaining to any of these things, this constitutional amendment supersedes them all. So it's very vague in what laws are superseded. So you're going to see, if this passes, which it looks like it will, not only will it be the most radical in the nation, but it will also open up all kinds of lawsuits. There's going to be all kinds of laws challenged because it was just too vague.
Right.
Whoever wrote it basically went for everything and said, you want to know what? We're going to go, the attorneys that wrote it said, we're going to go for everything and hope it passes. I am a little bit cynical and jaded with the electorate, unfortunately, just because a lot of people don't read through the language. They look at the the taglines on the ads. This was from the left. It was positioned as a women's rights issue, which we all know on this stream right now that that's a joke. The murder of preborn is not a medical procedure. It's not it's not health care. So kind of disheartening here. There's some silver linings. We have a couple congressional seats that were flipped for very good conservative, God-fearing Christians in the 7th district. A personal friend of mine, Tom Barrett, is taking Slotkin out, or I think that's her name. She was part of that the gang of whatever with AOC and Tlaib and those. So we think we flipped that one, but very small wins in Michigan, unfortunately. It looks like we're going to keep our attorney general, our governor, and our secretary of state all radical. And I don't use that term lightly, radical liberals. I'm talking like, let's murder babies a minute before they're born. Let's put a drag queen in every school. Let's not give parents' rights. Let's cram CRT down their throats. I mean, our governor has come out and said, hey, you don't own your kids when they're in public school. We do.
Well, let me say this. I mean, there's a lot of crazy women in politics, and some of them.
Oh, that's the quote of the night.
Some of them. I had to say something.
Clip it.
I had to say something. Some of them I have like a soft spot for sometimes.
Okay.
But Gretchen Whitmer is like the prototypical like witch. You know what I mean? Like pure evil to the core, and even has the what do they call that when your face matches your personality? She's even got like that dominatrix like face, like chiseled.
It's a resting bee face.
Yeah. Where she looks kind of like a man, sort of, but she's got the features of a woman, but she's got like sharp edges like a man. Like she's like the prototype of an evil woman in politics. It's just like it's bad as it gets. I didn't even know, like Vermont is the neighbor state to where I am. I'm in New Hampshire. They have a constitutional amendment to abortion on the ballot too, which will probably pass. But this one that you're talking about sounds like 10 times worse than the one in Vermont, which is pretty radical in itself.
Yeah. So every expert that read over it said this will be the most radical. And not only that, but extremely dangerous for women, even if you're pro-choice. You're going to send a woman to an abortion mill where a doctor doesn't have to perform it. That's insane. And we all know the murder doctors are already the lowest of the low. I have a lot of friends in the medical industry, personal friend of 25 years who's an MD, and even if we're pro-choice, we shun the abortionists because they have sanctions against them. They're the low, bottom of their class. They're just
no scruples at all. Like
no
they just
scruples.
Whatever. Right.
Because they're ripping small children from limb to limb, and they really don't care about their patient because they don't care about life in general, right?
Because that's what they do for a living. They don't care about life for a living.
Yeah, they're butchers for Moloch. That's it.
Yeah, but Gretchen Whitmer, absolutely. I mean, so when I was a legislative liaison at the state capitol, when she was our Senate minority leader, I mean, she is so narcissistic and plays the game. I mean, during COVID, she was out courting Joe Biden for a VP slot. I mean, she didn't care about lockdowns. She got caught multiple times on video, pushing tables together, being with 20, 30 people at a time, no masks on. So it was rules for thee.
Too bad she's white, though.
Yeah, she's not gonna get that VP slot. She's white.
No way.
Now look at we can joke about that, but that's the one nice thing about intersectionality and all these things is the left eats themselves. She's a a woman, but because she's white, right? I mean, you have to be a minority, you have to be a woman, you have to be of a certain race, you have to be trans, you have to be gay or trans, right? You got to be 9 things now to rise to the top to be able to have some type of position in politics on the left, which that is our saving grace is they do eat their own a lot, but I can't believe it. When you do national polls, when Pew does national polls, 65% of people still identify as conservative. Yet we see these elections go these ways nationally. Now we were outspent here in Michigan, 12-1 by Democrats.
Sure.
That's another great thing is, not great, but it's another ironic thing is Gretchen Whitmer's father is an executive at Blue Cross Blue Shield. So she had $10 to $12 million from Big Pharma and from the medical community that Tudor Dixon did not. But all in all, it's disappointing. Here's the thing, though. Christ is king. I know who I serve. I know why governments have been established by the Lord according to Hebrews 13. It is to protect the righteous and to bring justice to evildoers. My God isn't taking a nap, much like Baal. He isn't on the toilet, much like Elijah said of the other gods. My God is ruling and reigning. So I take solace in his sovereignty. But I do believe that we have to work. I'm one of those Christians. Obviously, I'm a locally elected official to where I do work within the system, bring godly principles to politics. And I have some personal examples of that even at the local level. But I do believe we have to still work towards making government righteous. I believe it with what Jefferson said absolutely, too, that government is a necessary evil. We do absolutely need it because God has instituted it. But I think he was being tongue-in-cheek there when he said it's a necessary evil because at the root, it is an evilness because when men have power, it absolutely corrupts them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen.
Sorry,
so you're saying a lot of Michigan
is...
people are moving to Florida is what I got out of this.
Oh, we lost a congressional seat in the census. Florida and Texas picked them up. That's where they went.
I know.
Absolutely.
I know.
Yeah.
Can you keep your people up there, please?
But
listen, only the best will move, though.
Right.
True.
Right, but that's another thing too. I don't really like the fleeing. It's like, are you going to?
Amen, man. That's what I'm saying.
Are you going to stay and fight for what And I love Michigan. I've lived here my whole life. We have 50% of the world's fresh water in our 5 Great Lakes. If you go to the UP, it's God's country up there. You better bring in a helicopter or a ATV to get to some of the land up there. It's a gorgeous state. I own property up there. Hunt it and camp out on it all the time. So I'm not one of those people that go, well, let me go to a state where I think things are looking a little better. I'd rather dig in and fight. And I wish we had more conservatives that felt that way because we lost a lot during COVID. They just said, I'm done. I'm going to go to Florida where DeSantis is trying to rule righteously. I'm going to go to other states, parts of Texas. God help us, don't go to Austin right now, mini California over there. But there's South Dakota was another one, and Christie has made some decisions I don't agree with, but at least the overarching theme is limited government in South Dakota. So there's other states that, look better. But, I'm from Monroe County. I'm a bellwether county. We were 100% Democrat 20 years ago. A Republican could not hold local office, and we didn't have any state or reps or senators from Monroe County. But guess what? Now we're 95% red. Just because we had people locally that said, no, we believe in certain things, and we fought very hard. And now we're a bellwether county in Michigan that then looks at us and goes, okay, well, why is a big 3? We were very dependent on Detroit for the auto industry. Once that went away, we started to shift demographics a little bit. But I think my county where I live is a testament to that. I think we can make a change. The issue is, and you guys talk about this on your respective podcasts all the time, Cross Politics talks about it as well too. We need Christians with a biblical worldview, though, not just conservatives. There's a difference. I don't want 50 Ben Shapiros, right? I want 50 Vadi Bakums. I want some Tom Askells. I want some Chocolate Knox. I want some 80 Rolls. I want those guys in office that have a biblical worldview and know that Christ is king and understand the role of government.
Amen, dude. This is good stuff, man. This is good stuff. your podcast must be awesome, man. You're just like preaching here. I don't have to say anything. This is good stuff, man.
Sorry. You guys are getting me all riled up. I was watching before I came on, and I went, man, I love this kind of stuff. You guys are, And then as soon as you said crazy women in politics, I went, okay, this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, man. Well, no, let me say this to you, though. Because me and, Matt jokes with me. He wants to move to Florida. I know he's not really joking. But I like the idea in some ways. But you got to understand, like, I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up in New England. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this is a beautiful place. There's beautiful people here. This is God's country too, though. Like, this is God's country. Mm-hmm. And they might be. This is like, the rebellion that we see right now, and all the women I saw in line to vote for that day because they wanted to have the right to kill their children. Like, that's all a rebellion, and God's up there and he's laughing at that. Are you serious? You're gonna rebel against me? Like, are you joking? Yeah. This is your rebellion? Yeah. And he's laughing, and this is his country, and we can't all run. We can't all run. Listen, there's a time to run. Yeah. But maybe that's now, maybe it's not now. I'm not saying what you should do because everyone's family is different, but Michigan is God's country, man. And we need to understand that.
Well, we also need to understand too that we've seen throughout the scriptures, and we see in Romans, God will turn you over to your sinful desires. He will not be mocked. And we saw it with Israel as well. You want a king? Sure, you can have a king. I was going to be your king, but guess what? You're going to have some bad times now. And we get the elected officials that we vote for. So whether you want to call it God's wrath being poured out, judgment, whatever it is, we vote for these people that rule unjustly and that hold injustice tightly to themselves and look at justice in disgust. So if that's who you're going to vote for, then we absolutely deserve that. Once again, though, the sovereignty of God is the soft pillow on which I rest my head in times of trouble. Political trouble, physical trouble, spiritual trouble, whatever it is. So I know that my God is ruling and reigning right now.
Amen.
And it doesn't matter what the outcome of this election is. I'm called to walk righteously, with principle, with a biblical worldview, speak the truth, call out falsehoods, and keep moving forward and encouraging my brothers and sisters in doing the same. So we could look at this and say, oh, this is horrible. We were expecting a bigger red wave. My hope and my trust is not in a red wave, and I don't suspect it's with either of you brothers either. I think we're on the same page here. So I can look at an election like this and go, well, I would have hoped that it was different. But then again, no one thought that Trump was going to put 3 justices on that would change the course of history. Now, Amen. Don't get me started on Roe v. Wade. I'm an abolitionist, and
we don't have enough time for that. We don't have enough time for that.
I'm not going to get into it.
I hear what you're saying.
I don't like the fact that the Supreme Court said, hey, we're going to give the states the right to legalize murder. Right?
It should have been nipped in the bud right there. There. This is insane. You don't have a right to this.
Yeah. So God will use whom he wants. He's in the heavens. He does as he pleases. Sometimes it'll look like someone that we don't expect. Sometimes it'll be the person that we absolutely think it is. Either way, my trust is in God.
Can I say something else too? And Matt, I'll let you speak because I know you're ready to speak. But listen, God will give us the judgment that we want. We vote for these people. He'll give it to us. But also, I think that there's a lot of people that think that, look, and there's not that many regenerate Christians in the United States. Like, we're such a small movement. Like, what can we really do? God can change these things in a moment. Like, when you see like Nehemiah, writing these letters to these pagan kings about, like, can I have some money to build this wall? Some people, and he just grants them. God just moves the kings to just grant him whatever he wants. Like, God can change this in an instant. We got to work like as if we have faith that God could do that today. Like, as if God could do that today. Like, we don't have numbers. Yeah, we don't have numbers. We don't have strength. We don't have, the power and all this. But one day we could just ask for something and God can grant it to us. The Israelites, when they're walking out of Egypt, they asked their neighbors for money and they got money. Why? Nobody knows. It's a miracle God worked. You know what I mean? Nobody knows why. They just got it. And so we need to understand, like, God can change this thing in an instant. And so there's no reason for a black pill. There's no reason for negativity because we've got a good God. Matt, what were you going to say? I'm sorry, I interrupted you, man.
I really don't want to say it because I feel like my pre-mill is going to eke out here, and I'm going to be totally blackpilling. But I was just thinking, like, I totally agree with you guys. God could do anything he wants, and I pray all the time for repentance in this country. I think it's absolutely foolish, though, to stay in places that are obviously compromised and there's no hope, especially in places like Michigan and these other places.
New Hampshire has no hope.
New York, Michigan, Colorado for sure, maybe Arizona, we'll see. But even where the opportunity to vote righteous rulers in is gone now because of the election.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
I think it's much wiser to have a strategic retreat. And I think your first obligation is to your family. And I think it'd be a lot better for Christians to come together in places like Moscow or Cape Coral or some places in Florida where we can build strong communities and regroup.
Sounds like Baptist propaganda to me. That's what that sounds
like.
Hey,
I threw in Moscow first. I didn't even throw out my place first. Okay?
You know I'm not moving to Moscow. I know what you're saying.
But I don't know. I just don't see there's any value in suffering through the judgment that are going to come to these wicked, evil states. And I think that even though as a nation we are wicked and evil and deserve judgment, I think from what we're seeing, certain states have the opportunity to repent, and some of them are. Some of them are not, and I think there's going to be different levels of judgment, and I don't see any value in willingly suffer through the judgment when you don't need to.
Yeah, Matt. Let me say this. I'm sorry. I'll let you talk in just a second, but I don't think that that's blackpilling at all. I think that's a legitimate option. When you see that in the Bible, even he's like, it's okay to run sometimes. I think every Christian that lives in a place like where I live or where you're in Michigan, we have to have a line. You know what I mean? We have to pre-think out, okay, what is the time when I actually do run? You know what I mean? What is the time when I actually do get out of here? I've got one in my mind, and I'm not going to necessarily mention it here, but
text me it later.
I'm going to work to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I don't think that's blackpilling at all because I know listen. I've talked to you a lot. You're not a negative person, but you're a realistic person, and I think that's just being realistic about things. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no, not at all. I would say with what Matt was saying, I understand that position, and I don't mind if a Christian takes that position.
Yeah.
I think me personally, maybe I'm a little bit of a masochist, or I just like the fight, but at the same time, we try to change situations, okay, while God actually changes people's hearts. And kind of, AD, what you were saying is I've seen it time and time again where I've been in either a political situation or a personal relationship or something like that to where there seemed to be no room for change. And I've done everything in my power to change it. And yet God moves on the heart. He moves on the spirit. And he changes that. He hardens hearts and softens hearts. And I like that idea because all we need is a remnant. The Lord uses a remnant over and over again. Okay, and I'm not going to get all Kenneth Copeland on you. Don't worry, we're not going to get into that. Hey, our boy DeSantis had Haskell down there though, so I like that.
I saw that.
Better than the Trump.
I saw that.
Kenneth Copeland, but
just a tad better.
hey, that's my pastor.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, that was a joke. That's like a.
I'm telling on you.
Oh, I love Pastor Haskell.
Oh man, has the tone changed all of a sudden?
That was a total joke.
I'm just kidding.
But I think both strategies are okay. I know that I've been called to fight. I think that's my personality. I think the Lord gave me that personality. There's some weaknesses to that personality, but there's some strengths to it too. And hopefully 100%. I can use them to glorify God.
Amen. Yeah. Totally agree. I think it's a conscience issue. Yeah. I don't condemn anyone who chooses the opposite of what I would do. I would just say God can do anything he wants, and sometimes he will flip things on a dime, but I don't think it's the wisest thing to just expect him to do it. Yeah. I think it's one thing to see him do it and then stay and cultivate what he's doing. It's another thing to just grind it out and stick through judgment and expect him to do that. Those are two different 100%. Things in my mind.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, agree.
100%.
Okay.
Well, Matt, I don't want to put too much hope into you, but I do want you to know that the reason why we're in New Hampshire where we're at is my wife's parents live here, and he's wanted to live in Florida for his pretty much his whole life. You've been having some conversation. I'm not saying there's anything coming on the horizon.
What?
This is a legitimate possibility at some point in the future.
Zillow listings are coming to your phone right after this.
That's not going to do any good. However, anyway, but God bless, man. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for
Robert,
for
pleasure talking with you.
Actually, wait, you're Greg.
Oh, Greg. I'm going to blame AD on that.
Well,
Yeah, no, it's my fault because the private chat is all out of order. I'm sorry.
no, not at all. Guys, I appreciate you having me on.
God bless, man.
God
Take
bless.
care. All right. I don't
Do we
know.
have some time for conspiracy theories or something?
I guess so. I mean, I guess the real crew might be taking over in just a few minutes.
Oh, they
but
are. Are
Do
they
you have
here?
any conspiracy theories?
I have tons of conspiracy theories. Oh, they're here though. We're gonna have
already
to save
here.
that for another
Oh.
show.
Here y'all go, talking about conspiracy theories.
Yeah, we got to cut.
Whoa.
AD and Matt are going into conspiracy theories. How come I don't got a
I
camera?
just see Gabe's white hand. I don't even see Gabe at this
How
point.
come I don't have
Oh,
a
there we
camera?
go.
There we go.
There
it is.
Good.
There it is.
Hey,
How's it going,
hey,
guys?
Good. How did these last 2 hours go? So I came from literally basketball practice to come right into the show. So how have things been going for the last 2 hours? You guys been watching any trends or anything?
Basically, no, not really. Basically, Matt has been given pitches to move to Florida this entire time.
For
You gotta go to
select
Florida.
people, for the chosen, for the remnant. No, for the others, I want them to stay in their state, but the select few can come to Florida.
Oh, that's great, man. All
I
right,
feel like
man.
the red wave basically stopped at Florida, is what it looks like.
Hey, I want to say I've been listening to you guys for the last 2 hours, and I want to say thank you. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal.
Awesome.
You guys have been the A team. I heard it earlier. You guys talking about the A team being us when you come in, but you guys have been killing it. You guys have had everybody watching and sharing over 160 people at a time watching, and you guys have been very encouraging compared to what I've been listening to from everywhere else. So I just want to say thank you guys for filling in for us.
You're welcome.
And
Thanks
rocking.
for letting us do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate you guys.
So
Do
God
we want him to
bless.
stay
God
for a
bless,
little
man.
bit,
Have
or
a
do we want
good
him out?
show.
I think it's time for you guys to leave. I think that's what Matt's saying.
Yeah,
This is like the awkward, okay, now you actually are passing it off to the A team. I mean, that's what happened.
Thanks for coming over. It's time for you to go home now.
Play some music.
I have-
Wrap it up.
That's okay, though, 'cause I really do need to go to bed.
It's midnight over y'all. Yeah. Lord bless you guys.
God bless. Take care.
Single, get married. If you're married, have kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them.
Take care.
That's great. Hey, y'all, welcome to Cross Politic. It's good to be with you guys. As you guys already seen, AD and Matt Williams handled the first 2 hours of the election night coverage, Cross Politic election night coverage.
Yeah.
Pastor Toby talking about some of the water boy. We also have a specialist, a sensei. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
probably overpromising and delivering, but this is great. Del Courtney is here with us. I've known Del Courtney for years, and I've always enjoyed his political analysis.
yeah, we've been trying to get him on
For
the
a long time.
news brief.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Do all sorts of stuff for us.
So
And
Del
we
Courtney-
finally got Del in the
We
studio.
got Del Courtney in studio, but we also have a great lineup coming up
Yeah.
for this show. William Wolf is he's in the waiting room right now. We got Dennis Safari who's coming up as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
We got who else do we have?
We got some great guests. We're gonna have some Zach Lautenschlager.
Zach Leinschlager's in.
I tried to kind of pick a guest kind of in each state a little bit, kind of like what I helped with Matt
So
and
there's going to be
AD.
50 guests.
No, just in kind of the hotter states on the Pacific time zone or on the
Okay.
Western time zone.
Okay,
Let's
good.
go.
Well, 'cause I was going to say, this is already past my bedtime.
Yeah,
I know.
but
Toby was late because he woke up.
there's at least 160 people watching right now. You guys go ahead, share the show,
Yeah.
let everybody know the second phase 2 is just now getting started. It's going to start out real strong with William Wolf.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to talk to this guy for a long time, and so we're going to start off strong. Oh, by the way, I think he just had a baby,
Really?
so that's the only reason he's still up right now.
William Wolf is up.
Yeah,
He's like, yeah, I can come on the show. I'm just helping my wife.
Yeah, he's out on the East Coast
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
so.
Wow.
What kind of baptism is he planning for that baby?
Well, what he,
We can ask him.
we can ask him when he gets on.
Okay.
Absolutely. One of the things that's really interesting is that I always like asking Baptists, so when do you plan to baptize your kid?
Yeah.
Because it's not a question of if, it's when.
Yeah,
It's when.
yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I believe.
Where did William go? Is he still there? Oh, he fell out of the room.
You heard us
Yeah,
talking
there you
about
go.
baptizing.
There you go. He's like, oh,
Click.
I think you got a bio for William. Let's go ahead and
Well, I got some updates too.
You got some-
because we
okay.
can start kind of going through some of the updates right now.
Yeah.
Me and Del can. So if you guys haven't been paying attention, J.D. Vance looks like 94% has reported in Ohio, so it looks like J.D. Vance has taken that race. That was one of the big Senate seats that we needed to get. That was coming off a Democrat seat who had it, and then it switched to Republican. I believe so. So there's no incumbent running.
It was against Tim.
Yeah,
Tim Scott. Tim Ryan.
Former presidential candidate Tim Ryan.
Tim Ryan, yeah.
It was a lousy presidential candidate. And so the other race that's still hot is Warnock and Herschel Walker.
You know it's not hot in Georgia right now.
Hey, Stacey Abrams. Do we got video clip of her?
We'll find her concession speech soon.
Okay, it's coming up. And that is with about 80% reporting. Herschel's actually up a percentage point.
Barely.
Okay.
Barely.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Keep going. I'm just saying Wolf is going to cover a lot of this. You know, he's
okay. Is he in? Is he ready to come in?
Whenever we're ready to bring him in.
Let's bring in Wolf. Okay. Let's bring in Wolf. Let's ask him a question that he didn't hear when he got off.
What was that? About the... Hey, William. How you doing,
William. Thanks for coming in, man.
What's up? What's up?
Hey.
You look like you got late night baby eyes.
Yes. I took my contacts out, but I got this ring light. So then in my glasses, it's like a halo. So I put my contacts back in. Here I am.
Wait. Hold on. Raise up your right wrist again. Are you at the hospital?
No, I'm home. But I still got the baby thing and I voted thing. So I'm doing my part over here.
Oh, man. So when you plan to baptize your baby?
Upon a credible profession of faith and evidence of, grace and repentance in their life that, is not necessarily under my authority of the rod. So, we'll see.
I mean, but it kind of is because you're getting permission.
Hold on.
I mean, it kind of is a little bit.
So soon.
Lord willing, as soon as
possible. Here we go.
Amen. That's all we want, William.
There we go. William Wolf is husband, father of three now? Is that
3.
right or 4?
3, yeah, 3.
Okay. 10 years of conservative politics, former congressional staffer, senior official in the Trump administration, writer for the Standing for Freedom Center, fellow at Center for Renewing America, and finishing currently his MDiv at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Thank you for jumping on.
And a Twitter warrior. Can we say that too? Oh, my goodness.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. So can you bring us up to speed? What are some of the big things on your radar tonight that you've seen that are maybe exciting you, maybe surprising you?
And distill it down for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, my predictions were off, so I'm going to have to walk that back. I got to say, looking at polling data leading up to a lot of these races, we were seeing late-breaking polls showing close races in New Hampshire, in Colorado, in Washington, as well as good polling in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio. So when you were putting a map together like that and you're looking at the complete dissatisfaction across any measurable metric, economy, inflation, gas prices, the kitchen table politics, I was thinking we were really cruising towards a real red wave. I predicted 55 Senate seats, total pickup. Look, I will say this, though. I still am convinced, even at this point in the night, Republicans take control of the House, take control of the Senate, but I think it's going to be close. So that's where we are. It's not going to be the wave that we thought. That said, a couple of big highlights really are. Vance absolutely crushed it in Ohio. Now, to be clear, that actually isn't a pickup. That's not a pickup. That was a Republican seat. It was an open seat.
Okay.
So, but man, that's big. I think Vance is a real bright spot, and that tells us a lot about where Ohio is for 2024. A lot more I could say, but I'll stop there.
No, keep going. I want to hear
keep it up.
Yeah, go for it, man. We're not going to stop you here.
Rattle it off, man. You got your contacts in. Go.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I still feel pretty good about Georgia. I think Walker can pull it out there. And that, if he can, that'll be a pickup. And
right now, what happened? What happened? Right now, it's tied with they're 49-49 with 89% of the vote in Georgia.
Yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be really close there. Look, Republicans only need one seat technically. That's it. One seat to flip the Senate. So that could be Walker. We held on in North Carolina. Ted Budd pulled it out. I will say this. I've seen a couple narratives already developing, which are really interesting to me, which is this, that like Trump took an L. And look, I mean, regardless of what you think about Trump, I mean, he was in Ohio last night. People are saying like Trump-backed candidates lost. Vance is one of the strongest Trump-backed candidates that was out there. So it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to try to parse tonight as sort of a referendum, like the nail in the coffin on Trump. And I'm not exactly sure that that's the right way to parse it.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't you think, though, Ohio, since it was Republican and it remained Republican, that was kind of a relatively easier win for Trump and his endorsement?
Well, yeah, no doubt about it, right? But Vance really battled it out in a crowded primary. He didn't do super well in the primary. It's been neck and neck, and he's notched a substantial win. Last I looked, he was I think 5 points up.
He's 8 now. He's 8 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
With 95% of the vote in, so it's pretty strong.
Yeah. So he's got it, man.
So what do you think of the Oz Fetterman situation? First of all, it's 80% of the vote have been tallied. Fetterman is at 49.3. Oz at 48.3. So it's about a point difference there. First of all, Oz is about the worst candidate in the race right now, and about the worst candidate Trump endorsed.
Sure.
And he can't right now. He's not even beating a stroke victim.
Right.
I mean, facts.
William, do you think there's anybody else to run outside of Oz?
Who could have run? I mean, I don't, honestly, man, in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I don't even remember who he was running against in the primary.
I like that black girl, Kathy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Kathy was awesome.
Okay, so this is a really interesting point, and I was thinking about this in the lead up to this show, and I want to make it, is that there's a real big difference between candidates who are actually Trumpy in their policies and what they believe, and then there are candidates that Trump endorses, and those are two very different things. Oz is not. So DeSantis is, I think, inarguably the sort of best Trump successor candidate in terms of how he campaigns. Kerry Lake too. So those are people who campaign like Trump and appeal to voters like Trump. Oz is not that at all. He's just the guy that Trump endorsed. Does that difference make sense?
That's very helpful. Oz also, he's barely pro-life. He's already touting hey, I'll go in and fight for the 15-week abortion ban federally.
Yeah, but what does it say about people though that they're willing to take somebody who's kind of brain dead over against somebody?
I know. That's my point.
Can you answer that for what is that where our politics is? Is man,
I'll take the stroke victim over Oz, over the TV doctor.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Look, I mean, we're in a dark moment, right? At this point, we're really, in some ways, it's clarifying. Candidates are just increasingly becoming avatars of the political party and machine that they represent, and people don't really care who they are, what they're going to do. Now, in some ways, that's kind of clarifying too. But man, I got to say, though, Sean Davis, he's a guy I respect a lot. He's with the Federalist, and I saw an interesting tweet from him. He said, why is it when we thought everything was going to go the way that it is, that it's shaping out exactly how it looked like in 2020, more or less, right now? So interesting comment from Sean. Lots to think through there.
Does this have anything? So depending on how this ends, do you think this has implications for the next election? And what can you expect from that depending on how this ends?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, look, I mean, if this ends without the Republicans sealing control of the House and the Senate, even if it's on a slim margin, then we're going to be in one of those periods where it's a ton of self-reflection, right? We're going to take a long look in the mirror and stuff like that. If they come out with, control of Congress, I think essentially we're going to see the same scenario play out, even if they had taken a much bigger control of Congress, right? Because we're still going to have divided government. Biden's going to veto anything they throw at them. They were never going to have a veto-proof majority in the House and the Senate anyway. So I think that we're going to see a lot of oversight. If they take control, a lot of oversight of the Department of Justice, the FBI, the folks, Merrick Garland coming after parents and stuff like that.
Pro-lifers.
So, yeah, pro-lifers. There's been tons of crackdown on pro-lifers. So I think as long as they can take control and hold it, then I think it sets up 2024 in the same way, more or less, as if there had been a red wave, so to speak.
Let's keep Stephen Wolf.
Your
brother Stephen Wolf.
That's his brother from
another mother.
But they got the same father.
Yeah.
There we go.
Same heavenly father. Hey, he's got the blood. Let's keep William in, and let's bring in Dennis, because I want to talk about Arizona with William.
Yeah,
okay?
we got Dennis in right now. Hey, Dennis Safarati.
What's up, homeboy?
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
Good to have Dennis. Why don't you read Dennis's bio real quick and
Dennis,
to our audience?
retired Major League Baseball player, who God saved while playing overseas in Japan. He and his wife, Jada, have been involved in the battle to end abortion since 2015. After suffering a baseball injury in 2020, Dennis became president of Action for Life, and he's now devoted his life to ending abortion and fighting relentlessly for the preborn. He lives in Arizona with Jada and their 3 daughters. Dennis, thanks for joining us.
And son.
And son.
They had a baby boy.
All these guys in here just having babies. I like this.
Yeah. When are you going to baptize him?
I think Knox tried to baptize him at ReformCon. We were close to the pool.
I love the kids. So does Jesus.
So, Dennis,
Arizona.
What's been going on in Arizona tonight?
Well, I'll tell you what happened earlier today.
Let's start there.
People were going to the polling stations trying to vote, and the machines were not tabulating correctly. They were told to go to another precinct, and then when they got to the other precinct, they said, well, you already voted, so you can't vote. I do know that both Blake Masters and Carrie Lake filed lawsuits that were actually denied by a federal or a state judge. And so they are sitting not too pretty right now. Masters is down by about 19 points, and Carrie Lake's down by, I think, 10. This state used to be red throughout, and what ends up killing it is Maricopa County changing over to blue. In the past, it was all the tribal areas, right? It was all the Indian tribes in Cochise County and all these other counties that were solid blue. But now you think that with Maricopa County where I live, and I think I'm moving to Florida.
Oh, wow.
Matt convinced you. So specific numbers right now: 48% of the votes only reported.
Okay.
And you got Masters at 40%, Kelly at 57%. So you got about a 17-point gap there. Yeah. Hobbs is at, this is the governor's race, Hobbs and Lake. Hobbs is at 56%. Carrie Lake's at 43%.
How, Sway? How? William, what's going on there?
Well, look, I'll defer to Dennis on this one, certainly being on the ground, but I think a lot of the vote that's left to come in Arizona is going to continue to push Lake and Masters back towards the top. So I'm not writing off Arizona yet. I mean, I'm maybe a sucker for punishment and eternal optimist, but Carrie Lake was just a phenomenal candidate. She manhandled the press every time she engaged with them. Blake Masters also, again, the polling there towards the end was showing neck and neck with actually some of the breaking out for Masters. So I'm not ready to write that off yet. I'm holding out hope there for sure.
Dennis, I'm just wondering the temperament of the people there in Arizona. This has to be, we ended with Maricopa the last election. I woke up this morning. I barely opened my eyes. And the first thing that I'm reading is there is election. Just what's the temperament of the people there? And are we going to see your very own Arizona's January 6th kind of setup if this doesn't go well? They've already been talking about people who are concealed carrying and running around with guns everywhere. What's the temperament?
There were some good patriots at some of the polling stations carrying ARs, making sure that stuff was going down correctly. I kind of believe, William, I don't think it's going to be this big of a blowout. I do think they'll catch up. I see a lot of Teslas with California license plates driving around in my neck of the woods. And I think what ends up happening is you have all these people that hate what they have to live under in the Republic of California or the communist country of California. And they come to Arizona and they vote the same way. So I think we're just seeing an extension of California moving in. This is a huge tech sector over here. I'm telling you, I'm surrounded by IT geeks and doctors not from here. And so they bring their own way of voting in, and it's split my district. So my district is one that used to be heavily Republican, a lot of farmers, cowboys, and when they redistrict, they split it, and now it's a fight. It's a fight to see who's going to win this side. I don't know, man. I hope they all went to the polls. I hope that a lot of this stuff got handled. I thought it saw in 56 of the 60 polling places they did fix the issue. But, I'm going to go to bed soon. I hope when I wake up I got an early Christmas present. But,
Dale, what are your thoughts on this, Dale?
Yeah, I have lots of friends that were in Arizona, in fact, left Arizona. And the weird thing about Arizona is the last time it went for a Democrat before Biden was for Clinton. And Obama didn't even carry Arizona in his 2 terms.
Romney won.
And so for Biden to carry Arizona, it really freaked everybody out.
Yeah.
And which led to a lot of questioning of the validity of the elections because of that.
Yeah. Say it again, William.
I said carry Arizona.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we got conspiracy theorists
I'm
on the
trying not to
show.
get kicked off of YouTube. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's the crazy part is you have Katie Hobbs, who is the actual one that is in control of the elections in the state of Arizona, with her name on the ticket for governor, and she didn't recuse herself. So that's like the person who counts the tithe at church that says, hey, I'm not going to count it with anyone else, or I'm going to take it home and count it. Like, you just don't do that. There's accountability, and I don't like it. You know, when Obama didn't get the vote here is because Mitt Romney, Mormon, heavy Mormon population here, and then McCain, who lives in Arizona. I don't know if that would have mattered if they would have went more towards Obama back then, but I definitely see a lot of more. I mean, there's still people with Trump flags in their yard. There's still Trump stores all around up in the mountains, and you get to northern Arizona. So it's hard to believe that this state is blue or turning blue, blurple, whatever you want to say. But we need to right this ship.
You know, Dennis, I know in the state of Idaho, you know, we have a similar problem with a lot of Californians, Oregonians, Washingtonians moving in. And the data that I've seen is about 4 out of 5 voters that are moving into Idaho are generally voting Republican or conservative.
Oh, wow.
And so we're largely tending to get reinforcements here in Idaho. Our problem is that we've kind of homegrown liberalism in Idaho through the public school system.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I would challenge even Texas, the same problem with Texas. Texas had this huge conservative state, and over the years the liberals have been chipping away at it. And I don't think it's because the tech sector is moving into Austin City. Austin City's been liberal for a long time. It's still liberal. And my guess is that we're home-growing liberals in a lot of these states and then trying to blame it on, you know, the blue imports from out of state. I'm not convinced on that.
And I agree. Florida didn't see that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the massive influx into Florida has been all conservatives.
Right.
And some are even saying that the ones that are going into Texas are more conservative than the Texans.
There you go. But that I would actually confirm what you're saying, that the public schools are homegrown liberals. Hey, Dennis, and I actually want to get William's take on this as well. Have you been following there's been some abortion referendums in several of the states this election day. I'm curious if you followed them and what your take is on them.
Are you talking with regards to Kansas and some of the other ones that?
Yeah,
Michigan,
and maybe Kentucky.
Yeah, it's where they're finding it in their own state constitutions to allow abortions, or that their own constitutions has language that says abortions are a right to the citizens.
Right.
I think across the board, you're going to see the pro-choice, the pro-aborts fight the way we should have been fighting from the get-go, ever since Roe got put into law in the 70s. I don't know if it holds up in some of these states. That's a big issue right now. I mean, I'm looking at Arizona, and one of the main things, women really flooded the polls, and dealing with end abortion now here in Arizona on the front lines. A lot of women don't like to have their rights to kill babies taken away, and that's one they're holding on. And Blake Masters got crushed for that, because he was in his primary. He said that he was no exceptions. He was going to end it. And so. Oh, there. She can give me a concession speech.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there. Yeah.
We'll put that in keynote, not in the stream. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think it's going to be. Abortion is a very touchy subject, but I just saw in the poll today that 10% of Americans think that that's the main thing. The main thing is the economy. So I guess they still care about killing babies, and very little.
Okay. William?
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing, honestly, guys. I don't have a lot of great news on that front. Here in Kentucky, we had an amendment to the Constitution on the ballot, so a ballot measure, and it was just to clarify. It was clarifying that the Kentucky Constitution did not provide a right to an abortion, and it looks like it's losing right now with 85% of the vote in it's at like 53-47. So that's really disappointing here in Kentucky. And then I think there was one in Montana as well that was was ensuring that any infant born alive would receive the necessary medical treatment, and that looks like that's going to lose as well, which is just disgusting. So it looks like, it's really, I will say this though, so that's bad, and it's I think most of the pro-life amendments are going to be a wash across the board. That said, it's not clear at all that abortion has animated the Democrats the way that they thought it would. They thought post-Roe it would really rally their base, and it seems like we're kind of going to be a wash on that.
That's good. That's good. What do you take? What's your take on the Georgia governor's race? Right now, Kemp. He's looks like he's a pretty locked in win. He's up at 54%. Abrams is at 45%.
They call it for Kemp.
And they did call it for Kemp. How much is reporting? How much
racism. That's all I got to say. Racism.
90%.
Racism. She was robbed.
So, but
doing a black woman like that. Racist thing I didn't see before.
So I think the most racist race is between Walker and Warnock. I don't know.
Did you just call Walker white?
No, I didn't. I don't know who to vote for if I'm black.
Oh boy.
Do you follow me?
No.
You don't follow me. But so we got Walker and Warnock. They're actually neck and neck, which is if Kemp is winning, you would think Walker would draft on Kemp a little bit, and that doesn't seem. They're neck and neck right now, 90% reporting. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I think that the candidate disparity, at least in the perception, the way that it was being painted in the media, obviously, I think quite frankly, too, look, Walker wasn't the strongest candidate. Kemp was polished. He wasn't, Warnock's not a strong candidate either, though, right? But which I'm pretty shocked he pulled it off in the first place. But Kemp was always going to pull ahead of Walker, and the hope was that gap was going to be like maybe 4 points or something like that. And if it stayed within like 4 or 5, that would definitely make sure that Walker got across the finish line. And I still think we're close to that. But I think it's maybe that's there's one of the main talking points you brothers will all see tomorrow is candidate quality. That's they're going to say that, but honestly, it's really picky, right? Because again, JD Vance is like somebody who you could easily use the candidate quality card on just because of his overall demeanor. But I think with this one, it might actually be the case of candidate quality. A lot of questions with Walker. Is why he's trailing a little further behind Kemp than we hoped.
Well, because you think about it, Ron DeSantis, to me, has really kind of laid down the template of what it means to be conservative and how his conservative pitch basically really caused him to win Florida in a major way. He was, against wokeness, pro-family, against the trans, against the lockdowns. That's the pitch.
Yeah, but he can come out for that stuff because of how he got people out of the lockdowns. Yeah. I don't think if it wasn't for the lockdowns, he'd be nearly as bold on everything else. You got to remember the domino effect that came here. It was lockdowns first, and then the rest of everything else that happened because of that stuff. I don't think if he wouldn't have stood strong on the lockdowns, I don't think he would have had the same kind of voice. He was able to tie all that together to a type of tyranny that you can't tie that to separately because he was strong. And I think any other person who's a governor that was strong on that could tie all those things together. This can go to both you guys. I was just wondering, one of the things that I think was Steve Deace talked about, that the black vote is kind of minuscule this time around. And to you too, Dale. It doesn't seem that black voters are too excited, and particularly I've heard this coming from the left, black male voters might want Warnock but don't want Abrams. And there is this kind of, while they still might not be moving right, they're not happy about feminism permeating their culture. The problem I have is I don't know why you don't see Warnock as a feminist too, ultimately.
Pro-choice.
But what is it that you think is resonating with
female adjacent guy?
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly right. So it's kind of weird to me that they're seeing we don't want Abrams, but we'll take Warnock, but we can't go completely right on this. It's not like the black voters went and voted right. They didn't vote at all. So they lost them, but there's something particularly happening in black culture, in the black vote, as it relates to men and masculinity versus women in leadership. Do you guys speak on that at all?
Man.
Dennis, you're up first. You're an athlete, Dennis. You up first.
I mean, it's how do you vote for someone that puts inflation with killing babies, right? We're going to end inflation, and the only way to combat inflation is kill more babies. I think,
which is one of her pitches.
But they still will go for Warnock, which ain't politically different from Abrams. So there's something else going on there.
This might get me in a lot of trouble, but we got into a lot of trouble in this country when we let women vote. So when we let women get into the voting, our country shifted in a very, very bad way. And so then it's an emotional, right? They're very emotional. So when you put them in charge of things, they get very emotional. It's hard to have a lady that's that off the cusp to be in charge of a state. Do you know who was the first governor to open their state back up during COVID? You guys know?
Yeah, South Dakota. They never closed, actually.
They never closed.
Kemp, Georgia. Kemp was people see that they got back to work, they were out free, and they say, you know what? Maybe that's part of it. Maybe they just like that he opened up the state, and he was the first one, and then DeSantis followed right after him. So maybe they like that. Maybe they like their freedom a little bit better than what they thought they would have got from her.
Interesting.
William?
Yeah, I mean, look, Trump ran ahead with the black vote just in general from Mitt Romney. He in 2016 he picked up a greater share of the black vote than Mitt Romney. Then in 2020, again, everything gets lost in the 2020 overall narrative. But Trump outperforms his 2016 numbers with the black vote in 2020 and with black men. I think men, and I don't think it matters what color you are. I think men are drawn to strong masculine leadership. So I think I think that helps explain it. And look, Abrams is a historically unlikable candidate. She's she's LARPing as the president of the galaxy on these Star Wars or Star Trek shows.
Facts.
Refusing to concede that she's a perpetual election denier herself. There's nothing special about her. So she's particularly unexciting. Warnock might have credibility in the community as a quote unquote minister, reverend, pastor. That probably kind of helps carry some cachet for him. So I think that's what explains it.
Well, you got to remember Warnock was at Martin Luther King Jr.'s church. So, and I think if you look at how he's campaigned on the smaller level, mostly at kind of black environments, 30, 40 people hitting him in that level. He's got a huge standing inside the black community and black churches. Herschel Walker is going out to an event, and he's talking about football games, that people used to love watching football games, and he's more in the rural areas, So there's a difference there as well. I just, with all the masculinity, they want masculinity, but they don't want to go all the way, and there's something that's there.
Our boy Ricardo Davis is in the comments, and he says he's calling for a runoff between Walker and Warnock. He thinks there's going to be a runoff.
Ricardo Davis was on the show earlier.
Which is what would happen in December. So similar to what happened last time. Warnock was in the runoff.
That's what he said earlier.
Yeah. Dale, what's your take on that? I'm curious what your take is on that.
On the Georgia?
Yeah.
I don't think either one's going to make that percent.
No, it was a black.
The disparity between Stacey Abrams and
Warnock. And I have to agree. I think it was Dennis that said that. I don't think the color matters there. It's men are drawn to more masculine men. And I think that's true across the culture.
But why not Walker then? Is that just because he's too far? He's too far right? But
maybe. I mean, less well known especially in the black community in Atlanta.
He was Herschel Walker. That guy did 100 push-ups every day.
Well, like Knox said, with the his background in the black church and with MLK, all of that has been ingrained in the culture there.
If you have to gauge on who's blacker, Herschel Walker or Raphael Warnock, it's Warnock.
Really?
Hands down.
Really?
Yes. Man. He's in the community.
Football star versus
his church that he was pastoring, he's got the hand from Martin Luther King Jr. himself. I mean, you know what I mean? There isn't anybody. Yeah. And then this is why you got pastors, Jamal Bryant saying, Herschel Walker has done everything white folks have told him to do. Told him to run the ball this way. Told him, and that played.
Wow.
And so when you have that, then his black, he doesn't qualify as a black
run
candidate.
The white play with Planned Parenthood.
There isn't.
You know what I'm saying?
Barnes. Listen, I know you guys have newborns, new babies. William and Dennis, thank you guys so much for being on here. Your time, we appreciate it so much.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing real quick? One or two?
Absolutely.
You can stay on if you want to.
Two comments. First of all, I think regardless of the end of the day numbers, this what happened in Florida with DeSantis, honestly, what's been going on with Trump since 2016, with Youngkin in Virginia, like Republican candidates have to lean into the culture war 100%. I think that like you said, COVID's a big part of it, but I think that really Florida and other races are a validation of Republicans like kind of shaking off this like, oh, we're gonna run on corporate tax reform. No, like fight against wokeness, fight it for the culture. Two, these libertarians need to get out of the races. They're killing us. Like in Georgia and in other places, you've got these libertarian candidates peeling off 2% of the votes that probably would have gone to Republicans. And I know y'all got some strong libertarian streaks out there in Idaho. So I don't know if I'm talking to you guys here or not, but like I think like this is something the Republican Party in general needs to wrestle with. There's no viable third party option. It's not coming anytime soon. And if we're going to have these neck and neck races, man, libertarians are essentially handing some of these nail biters to Democrats. It's not helping.
I think you're 100% right. That one thing that DeSantis proves too is like leaning into the culture war is going to get you more votes.
Right.
J.D. Vance, same thing. He's one of the candidates leaning into the culture war. Right. I mean, Dr. Oz was not leaning into the culture war. He was not.
But Trump supported him. Dennis, you got the last word before I let you guys go.
Dennis.
Hey, Trump supported Kerry Lake, Masters, and who else am I leaving out? Kerry Lake, Masters. Who's the other one in Arizona going for something? Anyway, I think people are trying to separate themselves from Trump a little bit. But I did see that he has some big news coming up next week in Florida. Maybe it's to say after DeSantis' win, he's going to step down and let DeSantis run. I hope.
So that look at William.
Hey man, I need to hear a little more post mill out of Dennis right now.
But that was pretty post mill.
Dude, I go to Apologia, bro. You know that post mill.
Hey, appreciate it. William and Dennis, you guys know this, especially you, William. You're the first time on here. And brother, you're welcome to come back anytime you want. Just let us know. Thank you. This was last minute. I asked him on Twitter. He was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So appreciate you.
And congrats on that new baby.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yeah, gotta come. I'm almost done with it. Got to come back on and talk about how we get this to Baptists.
I want to have that conversation.
Let's do
great.
it. Let's do it.
Thank you. Bye, William.
Later, guys.
Dennis, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah.
Keep going after it.
Cheers.
Yeah. That's
all right.
good.
I'm trying to work everything here. So let's we have
I don't want to miss that point though.
Which
conservatives before Trump came,
right,
in 2016, conservatives, the whole pitch was you got to drop the social issues.
Right.
Focus on the economy. Right. Focus on immigration. Focus on security, troops and overseas battles and stuff.
Right.
That was the pitch.
Right.
And then Trump came along and he largely focused on the cultural battles.
Right.
Build the wall.
Well, remember when we had the governor's show. And we had
Brad Little.
We had Brad Little, who's been our governor, and I assume is probably is being reelected today, even though I didn't vote for him. We had him at a table with us, and he said with Trump had just got elected. Is that what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the following year. Now that Trump's elected, now this is a time to be brave and courageous.
Yep.
Push hard, because now we got a more conservative attorney general. He won't come after conservative states for being so conservative. And I said, all right, what you going to do? You're elected. What you going to do? And he said, you know what? He said, I think we have some really poor roads in Idaho. I think we could really improve our roads.
Infrastructure.
And I said, what?
Well,
now that Trump's in office, you're going to improve our potholes?
You actually spit your beer out, I think.
Something. I don't remember. I was like, what?
Don't forget, Pete Buttigieg has some power because what he's doing with the roads. I'm just saying, he might have been on to something.
So I want to talk a little brighter. Zach Lautenschlager.
He's in. Yeah. I'm gonna try and bring this. Okay, I'm gonna try and do some spot. I'm gonna try and bring this Stacey Abrams and Kemp in while we bring in Zach Leidenschlager.
Okay, but I was wanting to talk some broader issues. Maybe we can talk after Zach Leidenschlager. We'll have a gap between guests, and we can talk some broader issues and stuff. I want to talk some other ballots measures and stuff.
Why don't you go ahead and bring Zach in? I'll see if I can.
You want me to bring him in?
You got the bio.
Okay, bring in Zach. Zach has that's too long of a bio. I mean, he's just done too much stuff. He's amazing.
I told you not to read it all.
Yeah, well, they put it in my notes here like this, and now I got to edit on the fly, so I'm sorry if I botch it. But 24-year veteran of professional politics, running and building hundreds of successful campaigns and political operations. We first met Zach when he was the vice president of the National Association for Gun Rights. I remember when he came on the show, worked to build and lead its 4.5 million member army. He's the founding partner at Red Mountain Direct, a full-service political consulting shop with an emphasis on legislative, project management, campaign management, and so on. He and his team are currently engaged in campaigns for statewide office and for Congress. Zach, in particular, in seeking to end abortion and defend freedom. Zach, thanks for coming back on Cross Politics.
Thanks for having me on. I need to update my bio, too. I didn't change it after the primary.
Oh, there you go.
So Zach, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What happened? Wait, no, I got a bone to pick. What happened to Priscilla Giddings, man? Coming after you.
I understand. I didn't see you guys on our donor list either, so I'll throw that out.
He had the list.
Whoa, time out.
He had the list.
Not everything.
Whoa, that's kind of below the belt.
Yeah.
He's calling us out publicly.
You started it.
Wait. We got to answer this because I'm not letting this fly. It wasn't like we had her on the show or anything.
Oh,
you did.
It wasn't
I'll give you that.
She had the Cross Politics bump.
She could come on here. Okay, maybe you're right, Zach.
Maybe money was more valuable.
Maybe you're right. It can taint you more than it can help you. That's a good point. All right.
It was a good race.
So Zach,
wait. I really actually want to know, what do you think why do you think Priscilla lost to Bedke here in Idaho?
Sure. Well, first of all, you have a candidate who is tremendously gifted, talented, and is very winsome.
Not Bedke.
No, not Bedke. Bedke is not.
He's a liar.
Yes, and so with that, and with I guess no modesty intended, but a very solid campaign in which we won over 80% of the people that we talked to, and came within 8,000 votes of a full win after a year of being accused of doxing a rape victim and absolutely doing everything we possibly could, apparently, to hurt women in Idaho. And so I'm fairly proud of the number of votes that Priscilla actually did win. After being run through the ringer to that extent, yes, I wish we could have talked to a few more people.
Yeah, that's what frustrated me about that race was Bedke was just such a liar in that race, and the evidence was out there, and a lot of the
thousands of dollars of public money for his campaign.
And then he put up this kind of kangaroo, discipline. What do they call them? The committee, anyways. And basically convicted Priscilla of.
I like to call them lynch mobs, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's roughly. Basically, he structured the whole Senate or legislators against her, and they kind of went up through what do you call it when you go through
ethics committee?
Ethics committee, yes,
mm-hmm.
and convicted her of an ethics violation. And all the evidence was transparent in there. And our local legislator, Brandon Mitchell, didn't say anything. A lot of these people just all cowed to Bedke and the lies that he was speaking, and no one would speak out. Is wicked.
Well, I didn't vote for Bedke.
No, neither did I. I didn't vote for him today. But it's just that election particularly really got me because of the lies that happened, and including our local legislators. No one speaking out against Bedke and what he did. Yeah. It was wicked. It was just straight rhino wicked rhino.
Classic stuff.
I need to come up with something better than this.
We can expect things like this from them. And the other reality is that we didn't quite run the hard enough campaign. I mean, the reality, ultimately, we didn't raise enough dollars to talk to enough. Now we raised almost $750,000. We were neck and neck with Bedke on spending. But he, as far as reported spending, but he had about $200,000 of state funds that he spent on those hearings and to publish them.
Right.
And that made the difference. So, sometimes you run campaigns and you do everything you can do, and you look back and go, okay, we could have done these things differently. The the main thing we could have done is push to raise more money and then spend that money effectively. But sometimes you do everything you can and you still lose, and that's the way it is.
Zach, are you currently involved? Do you have candidates running today?
I do not. That's why I said I needed to update that,
Okay.
that bio. I didn't read it all the way through before I sent it to you. So
Okay.
that's on me.
No worries.
We ended our campaigns in June and didn't take any races for the primary or for the general. Excuse me.
So Zach, I just have to ask, for you, are you excited about anything that's happening right now? What's your perspective on what you currently see? Oh, I didn't even get a chance to ask William about the fact that we don't have. That everybody's talking about the delayed elections. Maybe we'll ask you about that. Yeah. But what's exciting you right now? What's not exciting you? The red wave, you want it?
Well, it's always good to take power away from a party that has it and give it to the other party. That's not a bad thing. But we're not going to place our faith in, Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell. Right. That's not going to save America.
Right. Turtle Connell.
What?
So, and America has a long history of throwing the bums out, right? That's what we do, and this is the midterms. And so Republicans have an advantage. You also have a lot of problems in the Biden administration, and so we'll see. These are all good things, but it's something that we've talked about a little bit privately and talked a bit publicly about at ReformCon. America is not won or lost, saved or destroyed in one election. That's not the way it works. It's trends. It's decades. Sometimes it's centuries, and so. In a nation that hasn't been around that long, it still takes a while. And so what are we, what lessons will the politicians learn? I happened to catch a little bit of the last segment as you guys were talking with William and Dennis, and the point that it's going to, we want to look and say, okay, what lessons do Republicans need to learn here? Talking about more social issues, for example, and leaning into those, that's a very good point. And so those are the types of things to watch in elections. It's not really about which party controls what. If you believe that changing parties is going to save America, you have not been paying attention.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Man.
Wait, I don't understand anything you just said. So you just said that if we go a red wave, it really don't matter?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you trust the Republican Party to save you, if you believe that the salvation that comes through the red wave is because Republicans are now in control, when has that happened? When's the last time Republicans in control was a good thing as far as policy goes? But what we do want is for
Calvin Coolidge.
Politicians on both sides. Sure, I probably could agree with that. Although I'm not sure, I'd have to go look and see what the makeup of his legislative bodies was. But to answer your question, Chuck, I think that it comes down to teaching the politicians on all sides what they have to do to win, because that's all they care about, and that is the entire point of governed by the consent of the governed.
Okay, all right, so. Here's my question. When you look at so you got Trump, he gets House and Senate, right? Then loses. What does he lose? He loses the House
and doesn't get much done.
Right.
The reality, what we did get? We got a bunch of judicial confirmations, which it bears fruit, and that was great. But that's about it.
So so it seems like we have this. You get a conservative president, you get a conservative House and Senate. Then it flips, and then you get a liberal president. Yeah, right. I know. I agree. I'll give all the caveats to that. I'll let you you just keep the air quotes up, and I'll just keep talking. And then it flips, and then you get a liberal president, and then he gets the House and the Senate, or roughly. I would say he gets the Senate only because you get the vice president that gets the tiebreaker. So I'll give them the Senate on that one. Then it goes 2 years. They couldn't wait to get it. It looks like they can't wait to get the Democrats out and to have a more conservative Senate. Because of the economy and a few other things.
Maybe.
Well,
for sure, probably.
So if we get a conservative president out of this, what is it going to take to have the House and Senate for 2 terms? And do you think that's a reality?
The House and Senate for 2 terms or 2 years? You talking about a full presidential term?
Yes, a full presidential term.
Yeah, that hasn't happened in a long time.
Why not?
I think it was 15 out of the last 19, if I'm recalling correctly from the number I was looking at earlier today. 15 out of the last 19 presidents lost the majority in the midterms. So you're talking about long-standing. If you do the math, that's times 4. That's a lot of years.
Why? I mean, why? What's going on there? Do they just not hold their promises, or?
Yeah, and neither side likes their own team. Do you remember when Greenpeace climbed to the top of Mount Rushmore and unfurled a big banner next to the faces illegally? I remember it because that's my backyard, and I used to hike there illegally too. And the Rangers all knew I was there, but there's a long history there. And they were criticizing Obama for not doing enough, and this is the environmental cause, the environmental cases as we call them in the West, were very upset with Obama. They didn't like the lack of progress they were getting. The left really, did you see they offered Biden as a burnt offering this week, in the last week.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh, yeah.
And pointed that out.
Yeah.
Now, part of that is saving face. Oh, well, we know what we're going to lose. But there's genuine dislike as well, in the same way that our side was not very happy with Trump on guns. Trump actually had passed more gun control than Obama did. Hard reality. Things. Now,
remember, he did the bump stock. He did the bump stock thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then Fix Nix, which is way worse. I mean, if you can't own a bump stock, the argument was terrible, but sorry, I can do that with my belt loop. The Fix Nix problem, anyway, we could talk about that. But this is a reality in American politics, and look, it's always been the case. The only president that probably was still popular at the end of his presidency was probably Washington, and he had the whiskey rebellion problem. So,
Dale, what's your take on that, Dale? You've been quiet over there.
I have been quiet because I'm not a Trump fan.
I'm not either. I get him.
Wise to be quiet.
Yeah. Trump is a New York liberal. And I have to agree. The only thing I think he really did well was to put the Supreme Court justices that we got into office. But when it came for spending, he and the Democrats were like this when it came to spending money. And when COVID hit, he's the one who pushed for having a $3 trillion deficit, being pushed. And part of the reason we're having inflation today is on Trump and the Republicans. I looked at that today, and I think it was only 6 people in Congress voted against that $3 trillion spending plan that they did.
Right. Thomas Massey was one of them.
Led by Thomas Massey. That's right.
There you go. So anyway, I have lots of concerns with Trump. I have concerns with if Trump were to run again.
So William Wolf brought this up earlier. So I want to ask you guys what you're thinking about this. This is from National Review. Philip Klein. He brings up. He says,
we've had him on the show before.
It's hard to look at tonight's result as anything other than a strong repudiation of the decision to nominate candidates based primarily on their loyalty to Trump and their willingness to indulge his stolen election fantasies. In Georgia, Ohio, and New Hampshire, candidates endorsed and heavily promoted by Trump, Walker, Vance, Bolduc, are significantly underperforming the more traditional Republicans, Kemp, DeWine, Sununu. I don't know how you say his name. In Pennsylvania, Trump pushed Mastriano, who got clobbered, Oz, who's likely to lose throughout the country. MAGA-supported House candidates are losing. Meanwhile, in Florida, DeSantis managed to unite traditional Republican voters, populists, and win over independents through competent governance. Thoughts? William Wolf said that was going to be the narrative.
Yeah. I'm going to call BS, and not because we're going to worship Trump or criticize him either way. There are some things he did well. There's some things he didn't do well. And the things that he didn't do well are serious, and we often can't talk about it because you can't criticize Trump. But the problem does not lie in Trump's endorsement per se. The problem lies in the assumptions that these campaigns make, that if we get Trump's endorsement, that's all we're going to need. That's what Mastriano thought from the beginning.
Okay.
He didn't raise money. Walker actually did better at raising and spending his money. But there are a lot of other factors there. Ultimately, you can look at, and for example, take a look at Ted Budd. He doesn't want to talk about Ted Budd. Ted has Trump's endorsement and just clobbered his opponent because it's North Carolina. And so endorsements. Oh, well, and let's look at let's see, what's her name from North Carolina she beat a Trump endorsed candidate in the primary. I'm going to forget her name. Anyway, she actually ran a solid campaign and out-campaigned her opponent. You don't win on an endorsement. You don't win on a big media play. You win races by grinding it out and by running your campaign day in and day out and doing a better job of communicating with the voters, winning them over, and then getting them to the polls.
Yeah.
That's how you win campaigns. Mastriano did not do that. Walker seems to have done a better job, but he had to work hard at it. It is Georgia after all, and Georgia can be an odd beast. You can look at other places where you see people working hard. Utah is one example. Now, I got a huge kick out of leftist media this morning, putting Utah, and New York Times is still doing it, as a state that Republicans are supposed to narrowly win. Mike Lee is going to clobber.
He's killing it right now. He's like 15 points right now.
And that's because he worked his tail off. No one outworks Mike Lee. So you can also look at every race that the pundits want to point to and say, see, Trump is poisonous. And you will see if they're losing, there's a problem. Either there's something wrong with the campaign, or it's a tough state where there are things going on. And we're going to conveniently ignore the states where, well, Trump endorsed and they just won.
Zach, what do you think
I wanted to let Del
have Del respond.
If he wanted to.
Same question.
And then I want to play. I haven't seen this yet. I want to see the concession speech from Stacey Abrams.
And
that'll be fun to watch.
And then I want to ask Zach about election fraud.
All right. But thoughts on Trump's endorsement? Does it matter?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that when Trump endorses somebody, it will help to energize the base, but that's not going to win it for you, and it can't stop there. And also, it depends upon the state that you're in. Right. So if he were to go into Florida, he didn't need to go to Florida, but if he went into Florida and tried to campaign, that was not necessary, and you can't say that would have been what caused the wins for the Republicans there.
Right.
The state matters.
So you're saying Dr. Oz will be losing a lot worse than he currently is if Trump didn't endorse him?
I'm not sure about that.
I agree.
Pennsylvania. State matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how much.
And Oz was from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They just called it for Fetterman. And Dr. Oz is out.
All right.
So guess that says it.
But
all
that's only with 83% in Pennsylvania.
And who's calling it? Fox is calling it, so we can trust it.
They've never made a mistake.
If Fox is calling it, we can trust it. All right, let's play this with Stacey Abrams' concession speech.
This is her concession speech?
Let's see how much we can tolerate. Anytime you guys want to say something, just interrupt it. I'll try and pause the video. Let's see if we can do this. Workforce tech. They didn't vote for you. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And lost.
Just turn off the clip. They can't hear.
Well, I guess we're not getting audio from that. Only one side was getting audio, unfortunately. Well, I guess we won't be playing Stacey Abrams.
It was a great speech. It said, I've lost for my second time, and I'll never come back. No. It wasn't. Jeez. Well, so you guys, Beto O'Rourke, okay, and Stacey to me are very similar. Beto, Zach's already laughing. Beto ran 3 races in Texas, and lost all 3.
Yeah.
Senate, legislator, Senate, and governor. Now, this last one was governor.
Didn't he run for president too?
Oh, no, excuse me, president, Senate, and governor.
Yeah.
So he ran against Ted Cruz. He ran for president first, then he ran against Ted Cruz, then he ran for governor. Excuse me. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
In the governor and Senate race in Texas, he raised about $120 million for both those races.
Okay.
And I'm like, I would get paid to lose. I don't, and that's why Beto kept running. He's like, I'm making money to lose in Texas.
Is that how that works?
And I think that's what Stacey's.
Is that how that works, Zach?
Yeah, what happens to that money?
Very little of it can actually be paid to the candidate. They get paid in other ways.
Yeah.
Well, they buy a campaign jet.
FEC won't allow them to get paid beyond a certain level, and it's not that high. Most of that goes to consultants. But what's going on in Texas and in Georgia?
My wife just opened a consulting company, by the way.
Well, tell her about TV. But both in Georgia and in Texas, Democrat donors are intentionally dumping money to try to turn those states blue. And running a top-tier race like that gives you a lot of air cover. It enables you to pack a lot of money into other places and to turn out your people and to create big lists and to create donor lists. They're building machinery. That's what they're doing. They're not stupid and they're not sitting there going, oh, that Beto guy, he's nice. He's kind of a dweeb. I mean, he is. I'm sorry. But he has appeal, and he's able to run the campaign in the same way that Abrams is a little bit of a dork. And they're both willing to fill that role.
And so their bigger play, what you're saying is their bigger play is building infrastructure.
Yeah.
Correct.
And how to take over that.
Yep. It's all about infrastructure. Wow. All politics is.
Okay, so I have Marcus just sent me Arizona race likely not called until Friday. Is that right?
Golly.
Oh my goodness.
That's the update.
Why is it going to take till Friday, Zach?
Yeah, that was going to ask you this.
Maricopa County.
Yeah.
But they're going to count votes forever.
So let's say that they get to it Friday.
He wants to talk about cheating.
That's what I was going to ask.
Thank you.
Can anyone trust that come Friday? Because, Pastor Wilson was on the show earlier today, and we were talking to him. He's like, in my whole lifetime, we knew the results, right?
Absolutely.
This is new. We're like, you might have to wait a week to get the results.
It was in 2000 with Al Gore was the first time that we had, all that controversy over
hanging
chads.
Yeah.
And so the reality of that, what in the world is going on, and why are we allowing it to happen?
Ben Shapiro says, is Arizona counting its votes one at a time using a blind nun in Mozambique?
I mean,
Babylon Bee tweeted out that Fetterman was counting votes in Pennsylvania, so it was going to take a long time. And he can only count one at a time.
Hey, would you look at Greg Moore just put something in the chat here? Let me just pop that up. Can you guys read that from Greg?
Wait, here's another one. I'm sorry.
No, keep it going. Jesse
Kelly on Twitter says, congratulations to the Pennsylvania for picking Senate to represent John Fetterman.
Oh, no. Greg Moore, he was on earlier with
he's right. That's what I'm talking about.
So would you go ahead?
There are other ways. You get paid in other ways. Now, the consulting firm thing can be dangerous. It depends on whether or not somebody's going to come after. If you're Hillary Clinton, you get away with it, right? And it goes on. It goes on down from there.
So you got to kill people to get away with it, is what you're saying.
Well, you have to know people to get away with it.
Okay, but can we deal with the fact that right now we are live streaming. If I want to transfer money from my pocket to Dell's pocket, I can do that with a click of a button. We have Zelle, we have Cash App, we have Apple App.
You have Bitcoin.
We have, come on now, Venmo.
Preacher.
Why is it that we can't have a voting setup that operates with the same amount of speed as the transfer of funds? We can wire millions of dollars at the push of a button. Why can't we figure out election results at the same moment that why can't we tally it up like that?
Are you asking me or are you asking the
world? You're the guru here.
Mr. Election Campaign Manager.
Well, so here's my perspective on it. Number one, it is true that this idea that you can't count the votes quickly is a new phenomenon, and it is a created problem. We can talk about who's intentionally creating and who's not, and that's a whole other discussion on conspiracy. But the reality is that once you start saying, well, the only way to vote fairly is to vote by mail, and then we have to do it absentee, and we have to make it easy. So we're going to have these ballot boxes. You just walk up and put your ballots in there, and then we're not going to have them attended. So you can walk up and dump a box of them in there. And we want to talk about voting machines and problems, and those are inherently difficult conversations. There's not a lot of evidence to examine, and that's part of the problem, right? But we ignore the problem of the insecurity of voting by mail and having these drop boxes where you can stuff ballots. Now, we've had some success where we've been able to work to ban them. We got them banned in South Carolina during the last cycle. We got them banned in other places, but we need to focus on closing off the gaps that are obvious problems. Voting machines go the direction that you're talking about there, Chocolate Knox. That's the push of a button, right? And that's all. The money that we're transferring doesn't even exist. The federal government just creates it, just like they create it.
You be careful how you talk about God and blaspheme this God. If you blaspheme this God like this, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I lost track of which God we're blaspheming.
The federal government.
Oh, that
money.
God. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Let there be money.
They are listening.
Ex nihilo, So is there an answer, a solution for this at the end of the day?
Yeah, you actually have to treat voting as a right, which means in that sense. I mean, we can debate whether or not is it a basic human right or not. But if we're going to claim that it's a right, for those who say that it's a right, and then we're going to treat it like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whether or not who's voting. It doesn't matter. You can have one person voting 20 times, 100 times, 500 times. It doesn't matter. Well, then you can't say that it's significant and it means anything at all. It is not that hard to have secure elections. It's not hard to eliminate easy avenues of cheating. But then there's the other side of the coin. Everyone is very aware of election fraud and cheating because of the problems in 2020, and there are serious problems. But I hate to tell you, that's not the first time that there's been cheating in American elections. When people ask me, and we're kind of past the point of being asked now, but when people ask, well, do you think there was cheating in 2020? My answer is, well, yes. And I know for certain. We do. There is no question there was cheating. The question is to what level. We know there's cheating because there's always cheating. The bad guys are always trying to cheat. Right. That's the reality. You're not going to get away from it. Right. So what can you do? Well, you have to do everything that you normally have to do to keep bad guys from stealing your stuff. It's every different avenue. You have to close off the avenues. You have to keep them from cheating. You have to pass the laws and do things. Vigilant. Then you have to run a better campaign than they ran.
Yeah.
All I heard was guns.
Yeah.
You know what you said? Guns
and more ammo.
How do you keep them from stealing stuff?
Well, okay. Policemen with guns.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I want. I want the police to enforce the law. Yeah. And I want the laws to be just.
Yeah.
According to God's standard.
Dale, what's your take on election integrity and the funny business in Maricopa what's your take on this?
Yeah, I have to totally agree that there's been cheating in every single election. The question is it targeted for the areas that make a difference, like in the 2020 election where it appears that there was targeting done on certain counties to make sure that the election went certain ways. And, if they weren't targeting Idaho, we just didn't matter. For some reason. Yeah, we just didn't matter. And I don't know if you saw the documentary 2,000 Mules.
Mm-hmm. Yep, saw that.
Very good. I have, the whole question in my mind also was why didn't he reveal where these people were going and getting their, their ballots from. You know, he's talking about he's tracking them in all these places, and they've dropped off in a half a dozen different places, but those were never revealed. And my question is, maybe some of those were Republican areas as well as in the Democrat areas.
Interesting.
It wasn't just cheating on one side, because the cheating happens on both sides.
Right.
What?
Yeah. We heard about the rhino and what's wrong with the rhino? Wicked.
Wicked rhinos.
Wicked rhinos.
Yes.
This is wicked rhinos.
Right.
That's
right. Hey, you know, Dale's point, if I could really quick.
Yeah.
It is about focusing. And that is a very, very important point. There is a reason why the Democrats did not do well in 2020 in the House and Senate races. They did not do well. They did very poorly in state legislative and gubernatorial races. That tells you something. They weren't cheating, or at least they weren't cheating enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet all we heard about is how that's it. It's all over. Sidney Powell says don't vote in the Georgia runoff because they're cheating. I'm sorry. That's
a losing strategy.
Well, it's a losing strategy. It's an obvious losing strategy. You come away saying, I'm not sure if that's just insanity or treachery to your cause, to your own cause. But that's a serious problem. That's how you ensure that the bad guys are going to win. The point isn't the main point here is not to keep the bad guys from cheating, right? The main point is to win on our side, doing it justly. Okay,
that's right.
And you can keep the bad guys from cheating. Let's say you could do it at 100%, and you run a bad campaign, you're still going to lose.
Right.
Or if you convince your people not to turn out. And so we have to recognize that presidential elections are actually are much easier to cheat in than U.S. Senate races. I'm not saying they don't cheat in U.S. Senate races.
That's right.
You can pick 2 or 3 places and bada bing, bada boom. Now, look, I just don't subscribe to the idea that Trump won by a landslide and then they rounded up enough votes to switch it. No, we know that. Please name the last U.S. president that did win by a landslide.
I think Ronald Reagan in his second round.
Yeah, Reagan won by a fairly large margin.
You nerd.
Hasn't happened.
I know. Old.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a nerd. I'm just old.
I didn't have to read it in history. Fair enough. My bad.
Old nerd.
My hairline trending, the Toby trending hairline on this end of things also speaks to my.
It goes from up here to down here for glory. Hey, Zach, I want to ask you this last question. We'll let you go because we know it's late for you there. Just shortly, what do you think if the Republicans take what we think they're going to take, at least they get the majority in the Senate? Does it look like the House right now? What is it?
Yeah, right now it's Republicans are 186 and Democrats 149.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And the Senate actually isn't looking that good.
Right now, 48 Democrats,
really
47
close.
Republicans.
Yeah.
So
we are likely to end up with a split Senate again.
Yeah.
So then, what was off? Was it the messaging was off? Was the abortion issue more important than Republicans thought it was? Was the economy not? And Dale, you can jump in here too. I'll ask you right after we get done. I'll just let Zach go after we do this. Did we miss something with when we were doing the polling? What happened?
Well, that's always a question that we like to ask and talk about on election night. And as a campaign guy, I can tell you we don't know enough to know what happened. And in some races, they won't tell you enough to know. But you can observe and look at it. Some races, you have candidates who just thought that Trump's endorsement was going to do it, or that there was some kind of magic potion here that didn't involve a lot of hard work. That does happen. Some races you have tough states. Pennsylvania is a tough state. It's a tough state to win in for both parties. And so it's going to come down to a knife's edge. It's going to come down to who runs the best campaign at a very close, at a very high level. Same is probably true in Georgia. In some states, it's just not a good state. You're just not going to win as a Republican there, and you can't bank on it being red wave will take us over the top. In some cases, it gets down to messaging, and I know that's not the simple answer that you're looking for.
No, you haven't given me one simple answer this whole interview. I just want you to know that. I don't know if
I just like seeing you get spun up over there.
Yeah, it's working. But you know what though? I really think you're right. I really think you're right about that. The other thing is, and go ahead. I'll let you finish it, then I'll say my piece.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I think that we assume too much about the common sense of humanity in America. I think we thought that all the stuff that went on the last 2 years would be enough to wake people up to see this was insane.
Yeah.
And the culture, humanity is so seared into wickedness that even the obvious stuttering Fetterman, who is mentally not capable, is not enough to wake people up.
It's
Joe Biden. Joe Biden.
I'm going there.
It's the judicial blindness.
Yeah, but it's and whatever kind of worldview that conservatives think that they were leading with wasn't strong enough, didn't have a backbone enough to say this is not how God made the world. Yeah, what we ran on, in a lot of, and it's not over, I know, but I think we're seeing that it's not the red wave that we thought, and I think it's because the human person isn't as far with. They're used to being enslaved. They're used to being enslaved, and we didn't count on that.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yes.
It's not. You know
Both
what I mean?
sides, right?
Yeah, I think that. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. You finish your
Go
thought.
ahead. Zach. No. Go ahead.
People are used to a certain level of slavery. That is very
Yes.
true. We don't think about the fact, get out your driver's license. That's your slavery library. Pull out your driver's license, pull out your pistol permit. And that's true. But it's also true that Americans are used to the fruits of freedom and to enjoying freedom, and that we kind of just think it's going to happen forever. And we see, that we had pressure during 2020, and now a lot of the pressure has gone away. We can go to work, we can do things, and yeah, there are economic problems, but we can also talk to our fathers about 13 and 20% interest rates on mortgages, as well. We can talk about gas prices that make ours, accounting for inflation, look pretty silly. And so it is absolutely true, and it's always true that the people are not going to remember what happened 6 months ago. They're not going to remember what happened 3 months ago. They're going to look around. They're going to go, okay, this is what's happening right now. You know what? I really don't like the economic uncertainty. I don't like the stumbling around. And so you see that coming out in the House races. But the reason people run campaigns is because they work. Campaigns work. You run a campaign, you can overcome just about not anything, but you can overcome a lot if you can pull it all together. Yeah. Right time, right place. Yeah. And the problem is it's very complex, and there are about 55 inputs that you can't control. You can't control all those inputs, but you can run a good campaign and, interestingly, do a lot of interesting things. There's one more point I'd like to make, and that is we like to have this big picture, especially now when you can have everything. You can go to the New York Times, you can have it all tabulated in front of you and all digested, and we like to sit there and think that, wow, we can look at all this, and there's a reality that God still governs in the affairs of men. And he is still sovereign. And there's a lot of social engineering that goes on, and I believe that's blasphemous. It is wrong to try to do God's job for him, and we're going to shape this whole nation. We're going to fix the problems, and we're going to do the things. It's our job to do our job, and then let God shape the nation. In that sense, and God does that. And we're kind of focusing on the Senate going, it's a little flat. Well, look, if you looked at the polling for the last couple of weeks, Republicans were just peaking up, right? It was just starting to peak up, and we're going, okay, maybe they can do it, but it's going to be close. You could look at the House and go, oh, they're peaking a little better. They're probably going to do it. Those were not hard predictions to make. Now, I believe that that's actually a pretty darn good red wave, such as it is. Right. Yeah. But you see God saying, "Oh, you want a salvation in politics? Yeah, that's not happening.
Good luck. Yeah,
that's not happening."
Hey, Zach, I appreciate you, man. I really do. I'm very grateful for your work. Thanks for staying up late and hanging out with us, brother.
He also has a baby, right? I mean, your baby's a little older, but
she's going to be a big baby. She's about 18 months.
Yeah. She's still a baby.
Yeah, but that baby's baptized, isn't it?
Yes, she is. and more importantly, her parents know that she's in the covenant instead of say that she's not while acting like she is.
I always ask Presbyterians before the baby's born, so when you plan on baptizing them, they always.
Yeah,
appreciate you, Zach.
Yeah,
thank you, brother.
Very much. Thank you.
I just want
Fetterman is up right now.
Fetterman's up.
He's up.
The next guy that was going to come on, he can't. He texted me and couldn't.
That's totally fine.
So,
Dale, do you want to deal with?
I'm still shocked about the Fetterman call so early.
Okay.
All the pundits were saying that it was going to be at the Friday at the earliest before they could make that call.
Until now.
No hanging chads or anything. I mean, so I'm just shocked by that.
Huh.
The other thing I was going to mention was the geek side of me that, of course, senators have their appointments for 6 years, and then they're divided into 3 classes that are run every 2 years, right? And this term, 36 Democrats did not face election, whereas only 29 Republicans didn't face election. So there was a lock on the Democrats compared to the Republicans. So we were already going uphill against that. If it had been the other way around, I think it would have looked very different in the Senate.
Well, so then what do you think about the fact that, for me, I'm saying, hey, we assume way more about people than we probably should have to think that, they would want to leave slavery, to leave this setup.
And I didn't want to jump in on that conversation, but you look at our reactions to the COVID lockdowns, even in Idaho.
Yeah.
That's and we're just going to, close our restaurants, and we're going to lose our jobs, and we're going to walk around with masks on when everybody knew from day one that masks didn't work at all.
That's right.
Cloth masks. That was well known. They had studies done on COVID-1, back in whatever that was, 2016, when that hit, and they did masking studies, and they said, yeah, cloth masks don't work. You've got to have a Mark 18 gas mask on, from the military. You just look at all of our reactions to that, and I still see people walking around with cloth masks on. And it's this slavery mentality that I'd rather be back in Egypt.
Yeah.
Well, and notice here, like the balance of the relationship between that slavery mentality, but also Zach said wanting our freedoms.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop thinking, but Joseph in Egypt, and how Joseph gathered, all the grain for 7 years, and then all of Joseph's family moved there to get that free food, and they wanted their food. But that was also the very mechanism that got Israel into slavery over the next 400 years. And that's that relationship between wanting my freedom, but also wanting someone to help me, someone to provide for me.
It wasn't 400 years, but fine.
Yeah, 430.
No, it wasn't because you didn't do the math right. But that's
it's
a different conversation. But anyways, but I think the
off your mic, Pastor. I'm sorry.
The Idaho. I have to talk into my mic.
Usually.
Yeah. Yep.
Did you change my gate?
No, I did not change it.
No, but back to the Idaho thing. Just think. Idaho's supposed to be this red state.
Yeah.
This deep red, Western. We love our freedom
70%
state.
conservative.
And Brad Little shut us down.
Yep.
We were in a state of emergency until when? Till like this summer?
Yeah.
So I think sometime in the last 6 months.
And we still.
No, it's before the primary.
Right before the primary.
He released it.
He released this.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So I'm just saying, like, that tells you something about the state of our nation.
Yeah.
Right there, where you have, a supposedly highly conservative state with not a very conservative Republican governor at all.
Yeah. Can I say it? The Mormon effect in Idaho.
Yeah.
Mormons are conservative in some sense, but definitely not conservative.
Right.
And we, down in the Pocatello area, there's more Mormons per capita down there than there are in Utah.
Yeah.
We have a huge halo effect that comes from Mormonism.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's true. Yeah. So
wow. I'm just shocked.
What are you watching?
I'm watching Fetterman give his acceptance speech, and I really can't believe it. I can't believe that just happened. I know Oz isn't great, but